Chapter 1703, Huge Price. Chapter 1703, Huge Price. What Sir Dog Mad Dog said had shaken Jian Wushuang. An inverse cultivator required an accumulation of divine power when they were at the level of real God. It was an accumulation of extravagantly extensive divine power. 100 drops of ultimate divine power water droplet were harder to precipitate at the later stage. Jian Wushuang had massacred so many star demons in the 8th layer and collected so many demon cores, but he had only managed to precipitate 10 drops of ultimate divine power water droplet with difficulty and broken through to become a stage 2 ultimate real God. The remaining ultimate divine power water droplet required absorption of a terrifyingly extensive amount of pure power. An emperor god had absorbed 3 years' worth of power of absolute beginning in divine pond of absolute beginning until he fully recovered to his peak. Even if an inverse cultivator were to stay in divine pond of absolute beginning for 5 to 10 years, his ultimate divine power might not be able to reach a saturation point, which was when he would break through and become stage 3 ultimate real God. Real God Wu Bei stayed in divine pond of absolute beginning for 8 years, but in the end, he obviously had yet to reach his limit before he was chased out by Sir God Luo Sha by force. With the lesson of real God Wu Bei, tell me, would the controller of divine pond of absolute beginning, Sir God Luo Sha, let you enter divine pond of absolute beginning? Sir God Mad Dog said with a spurious smile. Jian Wushuang heard and smiled bitterly. Is there no way at all? Jian Wushuang asked. Whether or not is there a way, we shall see after we meet Sir God Luo Sha, Sir God Mad Dog said. Jian Wushuang nodded. He knew that it was useless no matter how much Sir God Mad Dog and him talked. After all, the divine pond of absolute beginning was in the control of Sir God Mad Dog. The conditions that he had to fulfill and the price he had to pay to enter divine pond of absolute beginning would be determined by Sir God Luo Sha. An ancient green spaceship traveled at fast speed in the void. The speed was terrifyingly fast. Jian Wushuang and Sir God Mad Dog were on the spaceship. They dined and chatted. Occasionally, Jian Wushuang would absorb some demon cores. 60 years later, the green spaceship arrived at a remote dark void. In the dark void, there were layers of prohibition and vast fog. The space-time was unique too. Unless one knew the background of the void, there wouldn't be anyone who would barge into the void. In the middle of the dark void, there was a piece of floating land. The size of the land wasn't big. It was only about 100,000 miles, including mountains and rivers. The scenery was like a painting, was like land of peach blossom. This is where Sir God Luo Sha resides. Jian Wushuang looked at the piece of floating land. This is so secretive. Humph! Sir God Luo Sha is eccentric and unsociable. Although she is one of the members of Sanctuary Alliance, she almost never visits Thunderbolt Island, and she hardly gets in contact with the experts from Sanctuary Alliance. There are even many experts that didn't know of her existence. She has been living in seclusion. There are less than 10 people from the entire Sanctuary Alliance who know her residence place, Sir God Mad Dog said. In Sanctuary Alliance, there should be quite a few experts who live in seclusion, like Sir God Luo Sha, right? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. There are some, and there are quite a few of them, Sir God Mad Dog said. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, but he wasn't surprised. At that moment, in the middle of the prohibition surrounding the piece of land in front of them, there was a space tunnel that appeared from nowhere. It was obvious that Sir God Luo Sha had known that they were arriving long ago. Come on, let's head in. Sir God Mad Dog led the way and entered the space tunnel together with Jian Wushuang. In the scroll painting like world on the piece of floating land, there was a simple bamboo house. Before the bamboo house, there was a stone table. Then, there was a silver-haired old lady in a simple robe sitting as she weaved a bamboo basket. Old, which long time no see, Sir God Mad Dog was casual in his manner. He came before the bamboo house and sat down on the stone stool right opposition the silver-haired old lady as Jian Wushuang stood next to him. Hearing Sir God Mad Dog's greetings, Sir God Luosha wasn't angry. Old Mad Dog, you don't look for food but came to my place. What for? I don't have anything for you to eat here. Ha! I know you don't have anything delicious. I don't even bother to come and look for you, Sir God Mad Dog replied, casually. Oh! Sir God Luosha was surprised. Then she turned to look at Jian Wushuang. This is Jian Wushuang. Greetings, Sir God Luosha. Jian Wushuang bowed politely. Jian Wushuang. Sir God Luosha looked calm. I have not kept in touch with the outside world for very long, and I have never heard of your name. Let me ask around. Sir God Luosha took out a token and sent a message to ask. In a short while, she received information about Jian Wushuang. I see. You're from lineage of Star, and you're in the first place on Real God ranking list. You are quite famous. Sir God Luosha looked surprised. Then she asked, I wonder what's the purpose of your visit today? I am coming for the divine pond of absolute beginning. Jian Wushuang didn't beat around the bush. Sir God Luosha wasn't surprised, and she continued to weave her bamboo basket while she said calmly, As Mad Dog has brought you here, he should have told you some stories. Do you think that after what happened with real God Wu Bei, I would let you, an inverse cultivator, enter divine pond of absolute beginning? Sir God Luosha, in this world, no matter what the incident is, there is space for negotiation. Divine pond of absolute beginning will be really extremely helpful to me, but I have no idea what price I have to pay in order to enter and absorb power of absolute beginning to my heart's content. Jian Wushuang said solemnly, The last time real God Wu Bei entered, he stayed there for 8 years. I had to chase him out by force. If I hadn't, even if he had stayed there for 10 years, the divine power in his body might not have reached his limit. An inverse cultivator absorbing 10 years' worth of divine power, wantonly, just how extensive would be the amount of power of absolute beginning absorbed? You can't afford the price. Sir God Luosha said. Sir God Luosha, if you don't make it clear, how will I know if I can afford it? Jian Wushuang said. You're so stubborn. I'll be straightforward with you, then. I heard that lineage of Star has got a white blaze fruit tree. Sir God Luosha looked at him. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. The white blaze fruit tree was what he had gotten. That's simple. If you have the ability to give the white blaze fruit tree that you gave lineage of Star to me, I will let you stay in divine pond of absolute beginning for 10 years, Sir God Luosha said. What? Jian Wushuang looked strained. He had known since long ago that Sir God Luosha would ask for a huge price, but he had never expected it to be that huge. A white blaze fruit tree. One should know that the white blaze fruit tree was something that all forces cast greedy eyes over. Plus, even if he brought a white blaze fruit tree, he could only stay in divine pond of absolute beginning for 10 years. In 10 years, Jian Wushuang wasn't sure if he could accumulate ultimate divine power to his extreme limit. Chapter 1704, Sir God Luosha's Enmity. Chapter 1704, Sir God Luosha's Enmity. Although I was the one who got the white blaze fruit tree, it is extremely useful to lineage of Star. I can't exchange a white blaze fruit tree for an opportunity to enter divine pond of absolute beginning. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Sir God Luosha, is there no other possibility? Another possibility? Yes, Sir God Luo Sha suddenly looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, I read the information recorded on Real God ranking list. It is said that you once injured Sir God Qianlan. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Sir God Qianlan is an almighty from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Why would he fight with you? Sir God, Luo Sha asked. It was because when I was wandering in the 8th lair, I killed one expert after another from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Jian Wushuang briefly shared his story of the 8th lair. Actually, many experts in Eternal Chaotic World knew about the story. However, as Sir God Luo Sha was secluded from the outside world, she never heard about it. He finished the story. In other words, Soaring Heaven King Palace suffered a great loss because of you? Sir God Luo Sha's eyes squinted. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded again. I knew about this as well. Sir God Mad Dog spoke. Soaring Heaven King Palace has been barbaric, and they never once suffered. But this time, not only did they suffer a great loss, they were embarrassed. They even became a laughing stock in Eternal Chaotic World. This is because of Jian Wushuang. I see, Sir God. Luo Sha looked at Jian Wushuang again, but her gaze was different than before. Jian Wushuang, you can enter Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning, and you can stay however long you want, Sir God Luo Sha said. Huh. Jian Wushuang was thrilled with excitement, and the price is... There's no price required. You can just enter. If there's only one condition, it's that after you increase your power, you'll kill that bastard Ling on my behalf. Sir God, Luo Sha bellowed as murderous intention soared in her eyes. Bastard Ling? Jian Wushuang was stunned. He didn't even know who he was. Jian Wushuang, that bastard Ling that Sir God Luo Sha was talking about, is the founder of Soaring Heaven King Palace, Emperor God Ling. Soaring Heaven King Palace has 2 emperor gods. Emperor God Ling is the oldest and also the strongest. Compared to Star Palace Master from lineage of Star, he should only be stronger, not weaker. Of course, if Star Palace Master were to perform the secret skill of Star Palace with his all, Emperor God Ling could only run away hastily, Sir God Mad Dog said. Sir God Mad Dog was talking to Jian Wushuang via communication token. Then, Sir God Luo Sha didn't know what they were talking about. Judging from Sir God Luo Sha's look, the rumor should be real, Sir God Mad Dog sighed emotionally. Rumor? What rumor? Jian Wushuang asked. A rumor said that Sir God Luo Sha once had a loving husband who was also a Sir God expert. The 2 of them were like a celestial couple. But then, somehow or other, her husband was killed by Emperor God Ling. Sir God Luo Sha wanted to take revenge on Soaring Heaven King Palace badly, once because of that. However, she was alone. She couldn't cause such a major force like Soaring Heaven King Palace to move, Sir God Mad Dog said. This happened long ago. Plus, Sir God Luo Sha never brought it up herself, so I didn't know if it was true or false. But from what it seems, it should be true. Jian Wushuang, you're lucky, Sir God Mad Dog teased. Jian Wushuang smiled. That was true. He couldn't pay the price that Sir God Luo Sha wanted. He thought he was predestined not to cross paths with Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning. But who knew Sir God Luo Sha harbored such deep hatred against Soaring Heaven King Palace? Jian Wushuang had happened to fight against Soaring Heaven King Palace head-on, which had made them suffer great losses and became a laughing stock. It simply meant that he had vented Sir God Luo Sha's grievance. Jian Wushuang, Sir God Luo Sha looked at Jian Wushuang. You made Soaring Heaven King Palace suffer a great loss, and they definitely won't let it slip. Back then, my husband merely taught the disciple of Soaring Heaven King Palace a lesson, as he couldn't stand their barbaric behavior. Then bastard Ling took action personally to kill my husband. My husband was naturally gifted. If it wasn't because of bastard Ling, he would have become an emperor by now. You, in terms of potential, are not inferior to my husband. Soaring Heaven King Palace won't let you continue to grow. They definitely won't. So, show no mercy. Don't win by luck or think that you might be able to resolve the resentment with Soaring Heaven King Palace. It is impossible, definitely impossible. What you need to do is to destroy Soaring Heaven King Palace entirely and kill all of them. Then, you can live in this world in peace. Jian Wushuang's face grew solemn. He knew that Sir God Luo Sha was speaking the truth. Soaring Heaven King Palace definitely wouldn't let it go. Between him and Soaring Heaven King Palace, there wasn't any possibility to resolve resentment. Soaring Heaven King Palace would definitely stop at nothing until he died. After quite some time, Sir God Luo Sha finally calmed down. "Excuse me. Sorry that I lost control." Sir God Luo Sha's face became cold. "Jian Wushuang, follow me." Sir God Luo Sha led Jian Wushuang and Sir God Mad Dog to the void at the back. Very soon, the three of them arrived at the core of the piece of floating land. It was covered within a prohibition, and they could faintly see a pond. The pond wasn't huge in size, but it looked rather deep. Jian Wushuang heard from Hall Master Gu Xian back, in lineage of Star, that divine pond of absolute beginning was 999,900 zhang deep. That is divine pond of absolute beginning. You can enter directly, but remember, you must only absorb the power of absolute beginning. Don't touch or move the special prohibition or formation in the divine pond. The formation is extremely important to the divine pond. Once it's moved, the consequences will be disastrous. Sir God Luo Sha exhorted. "I understand. Thank you, Sir God Luo Sha." Jian Wushuang thanked her. "Go ahead." Sir God Luo Sha waved her hand. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate and took a stride forward and plunged towards the divine pond. He arrived at the pond very soon. "Old Witch, you were quite generous this time. You let Jian Wushuang absorb the power of absolute beginning in divine pond of absolute beginning to his heart's content. He is an inverse cultivator. Aren't you afraid that he will finish up the power of absolute beginning?" Sir God Mad Dog smiled. "Humph, my divine pond of absolute beginning isn't as simple as you think it is. So what if he is an inverse cultivator? As long as he is capable, go ahead and absorb it. If he were to have the capability to absorb 1/100th of the divine pond, I think he was impressive," Sir God Luo Sha sneered. "Plus, this young man embarrassed Soaring Heaven King Palace. Forget about the 1/100th power of absolute beginning. Even if he took away 1/10th power of absolute beginning, I'd let him in because I am happy." Chapter 1705, Power of Absolute Beginning. Chapter 1705, Power of Absolute Beginning. Within the divine pond of absolute beginning, white pond water was flowing about. Jian Wushuang was inside the divine pond of absolute beginning, and only his head was left on top of the water. This is the power of absolute beginning. Jian Wushuang felt the white pond water thoroughly. It was pure, and it did not have any impurities. It's too pure. Its power is even purer and in a greater amount than the demon core's power. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Hall Master Gu Xian was right. The power of absolute beginning had to be the purest power in the eternal chaotic world. For such a power, not only could it be absorbed and changed into divine power, it also contained shocking recovery powers. It was no wonder that a dying emperor god had recovered to his peak after staying in the divine pond for 3 years. "Let's try it." Jian Wushuang attempted to absorb the power of absolute beginning at once. As he absorbed, the white pond water around him entered his body slowly. After that, with the heavenly creation skill active, the pond water started to transform. After just a short amount of time, a small bit of ultimate divine power, which was transformed from the power of absolute beginning, was formed. This speed of transformation, it's a lot faster than when I absorbed the demon cores. Moreover, in terms of quality, it is a lot better. The ultimate divine power that has been transformed from the power of absolute beginning that I have absorbed for this period of time is probably slightly higher than the amount I would get from absorbing a grade 3 demon core. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes wide, and they were filled with delight. Let's begin. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate, and he made the best use of his time immediately to start absorbing and transforming the power of absolute beginning in the divine pond. As he absorbed, the ultimate divine power in his body continued to increase. After that, the 11th droplet of ultimate divine power started to precipitate slowly. In just 3 days' time, the 11th ultimate divine power water droplet was precipitated. It's too fast. It has only been 3 days. Jian Wushuang was over the moon. It should be known that if he had continued to rely on absorbing the demon cores, it would be unknown how many demon cores and how much time he would need to precipitate the 11th droplet of the ultimate divine power. However, in the divine pond of absolute beginning, he only took 3 days. Let's continue. With a frenzy of delight, Jian Wushuang immersed himself completely into absorbing the power of absolute beginning. Time passed by slowly. In front of the bamboo house, Sir God Luosha and Sir God Mad Dog were sitting opposite each other, just like before. 10 years has already passed. However, Jian Wushuang still has not come out of the divine pond of absolute beginning. In 10 years' time, I wonder how much power of absolute beginning he has absorbed. Old witch, doesn't your heart ache at all? Sir God Mad Dog laughed. Do you think that I am you? Sir God Luo Sha shot a glance towards Sir God Mad Dog. The divine power that an inverse cultivator needs has indeed exceeded my expectations. Hee, Sir God Mad Dog laughed strangely. After that, he flipped his hands and took out 2 white blaze fruits. He gave one of them to Sir God Luo Sha. This is a white blaze fruit. Sir God Luo Sha revealed a surprised expression. Old witch, don't say that I am reluctant. I only have a total of 2 white blaze fruits, and they were given to me by Jian Wushuang. Now, I'm giving one of them to you. Aren't I being a good person? Sir God Mad Dog laughed strangely. Sir God Luo Sha did not stand on ceremony and put the white blaze fruit into her Qian Kuan ring right away. As for Sir God Mad Dog, he held the white blaze fruit in his hands and started to eat it with huge bites. He looked like he was enjoying it. It's really a waste for the white blaze fruit to be in your hands. Sir God Luo Sha curled her lips. At the same time as these 2 Sir Gods were having a conversation. Outside the black void, a giant spaceship from the outside world was traveling slowly. In the spaceship, there were 4 figures, and they were looking forward at the black void, which was filled with dense fog. Among the 4 of them, the person at the front was a handsome young man who wore a luxurious purple long robe, as well as a heart-rending smile. That Sir God Luo Sha lives here? Ha! It's really a very remote location. It's indeed remote. A cold and gloomy old man who was beside him laughed. If your Highness doesn't know, Sir God Luo Sha is an unsociable and eccentric person. Ever since her husband died, she hid herself from the world, and she did not have any contact with the outside world. Even within the Sanctuary Alliance, there is probably less than 10 people who know where she lives. We have also spent a lot of effort and time to find this place. Oh, is that so? The handsome man raised the corners of his mouth, and his smile became even more obvious. If Jian Wushuang were present, he would definitely be extremely furious when he saw the handsome young man. As he was the person who was with Ling Rushua in the blood demon church back then, His Highness Mu Hong. Back then, when Jian Wushuang had been fighting with His Highness Mu Hong head-on, he had come across the inverse cultivation test for the third heaven abruptly. In the end, he was trampled on by His Highness Mu Hong. How are the abilities of Sir God, Luo Sha? His Highness Mu Hong questioned. She's very strong. Out of the Sir Gods, she should be at the top level. However, with our lineup, it will be easy to kill her. The cold and gloomy old man answered. For our mission this time around, killing Sir God Luo Sha is secondary. The most important thing is that divine pond of absolute beginning. The seventh palace master has instructed us that we must get the divine pond of absolute beginning at all costs. Even if we are unable to get it, we absolutely have to destroy it. If not, when a great battle breaks out in the future, the divine pond of absolute beginning will give two-mant benefits to the Sanctuary Alliance. The cold and gloomy old man was certain about how impressive the divine pond of absolute beginning was. A dying emperor god could recover to his peak after being in the divine pond of absolute beginning for 3 years. If Sir God Luo Sha were to use it without caring about anything else, the power of absolute beginning that had accumulated in the divine pond of absolute beginning could absolutely provide many almighties with divine power and also heal their injuries continuously. When the divine pond of absolute beginning had just formed, the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance wanted to place it in the Thunderbolt Island. However, the divine pond of absolute beginning had long been like a treasure of Sir God Luo Sha, and it was completely under her control. Without her consent, even the Sanctuary Alliance was unable to snatch it away with force. As such, they could only discuss some conditions with her. However, the condition that Sir God Luo Sha brought up was to kill Emperor God Ling Yun and destroy the Soaring Heaven King Palace. However, she was rejected by the Sanctuary Alliance. Therefore, in a fit of fury, Sir God Luo Sha brought the divine pond of absolute beginning along with her and left the Sanctuary Alliance. Since then, she has kept herself hidden from the world and has not come out. As such, the Sanctuary Alliance cannot do anything to her. However, it is fortunate that she possesses the divine pond of absolute beginning, as this has given us an opportunity. If it were in the Thunderbolt Island, there would be nothing that we could do. The cold and gloomy old man laughed. Humph, since the Sanctuary Alliance cannot control Sir God Luo Sha, we shall be the ones to do it. His Highness Mu Hong laughed coldly. Let's charge in directly. With the order of His Highness Mu Hong, the ancient spaceship immediately charged forward into the black void, which was covered by a seal. It also moved at a shocking speed and headed toward the center of the dark void, where a floating land was. Atop the piece of floating land, the expressions of Sir God Mad Dog and Sir God Luo Sha, who were originally having a conversation, changed abruptly. Chapter 1706, Sudden Change. Chapter 1706, Sudden Change. Someone barged in. There was a chilly gleam in Sir God Luo Sha's eyes. What? Sir God Mad Dog looked over with a surprised look. I set up a prohibition in the void. Even if there were to be someone who came to visit me, they would normally wait outside the prohibition and only enter after they received my permission. However, the people who came didn't receive my permission. Sir God Luo Sha said. Hung. There was a loud explosion in the nearby void. At the same time, there was a fierce divine aura that spread. Damn it! They already started to attack the prohibition. Although the prohibition that I've set up is not too shabby, a Sir God could forcefully break it if he were to hit it with all his power. Among the people who came, there is obviously someone who is good at formations. Sir God Luo Sha's voice was deep. In a short time, the prohibition that surrounded the floating land collapsed by force. Ha ha, Sir God Luo Sha, you have been living the life all these years. There was a burst of hearty laughter. Then there were 4 figures who plunged over. The 4 of them let out powerful auras, and they were already at Sir God level. For Sir Gods. Sir God Luo Sha's face grew grave. I have never seen the 4 Sir Gods in Sanctuary Alliance before. They are definitely not from Sanctuary Alliance. They are either from Holocaust Sect or Acheron Palace. Sir God Mad Dog's gaze grew cold. In eternal chaotic world, Sanctuary Alliance was an absolute overlord, the supreme. There was no doubt about that. However, although Sanctuary Alliance was strong, there was a hidden enemy. Star Demon Clan in the 8th layer was just one of them. Plus, Star Demon Clan had only stayed within the 8th layer. As long as the number of Star Demon didn't reach a limit, they almost never would leave the 8th layer. Besides Star Demon's clan, there were many hidden forces that could pose a threat to Sanctuary Alliance. These hidden forces moved around the 10 sanctuaries. They moved within eternal chaotic world. Among the hidden forces, Holocaust Sect and Acheron Palace were the strongest. Holocaust Sect frequently massacred large numbers of cultivators for their own benefit. They would even massacre to the extent of a world or even a holy kingdom. They were definitely one of the most vicious forces. They were also the public enemy of all cultivators. As for Acheron Palace, they were the most treacherous and the most well-hidden force. They did not take action recklessly, but once they took action, the person who they were aiming at had almost zero possibility of staying alive. There were countless experts in Sanctuary Alliance who had died at the hands of Acheron Palace. Back when Hall Master Yuan had told Jian Wushuang to be careful of the hidden forces, he was mainly warning him about Acheron Palace. A genius like Jian Wushuang, Acheron Palace normally wouldn't let him live for too long. They are here for Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning. Sir God Luo Sha instantly understood. Old Mad Dog, I'm afraid I'll have to drag you in for this. Don't mention it. No matter if they are from Holocaust Sect of Acheron Palace, they are enemies of Sanctuary Alliance and public enemies of countless cultivators in eternal chaotic world. Although I am casual in manner most of the time, I do understand this principle, Sir God Mad Dog said in a low voice. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The 4 figures appeared in the void, not far away, and they stood side by side, but didn't launch attacks in the first instant. I never thought Mad Dog would be here as well. A treacherous elderly among the 4 of them squinted his eyes. Mad Dog isn't weak in power, and he definitely won't just sit and watch. He teams up with Sir God Luo Sha. It will be much more troublesome to deal with them. God Chi, God Ba, the 2 of you teamed up with me to fight against Sir God Luo Sha and this Mad Dog. Your Highness Mu Hong, we will have to trouble you for Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning. No problem. Highness Mu Hong smiled and nodded. I originally thought if there was only Sir God Luo Sha alone, I'd like to fight with her and have some training. As they are in a team of 2, in order to save time, I shall not join the fight. Your Highness Mu Hong, if you want to train, there will be many opportunities in the future. The treacherous elderly smiled. Oh yeah, when your Highness Mu Hong arrives at Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning, it's best if you first check if there are other experts in Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning, just in case. If there is, your Highness Mu Hong, please instantly leave. If there isn't, please go according to our plan. Haha, don't worry. I'm not stupid. If there is a powerful Sir God or Emperor God absorbing power of Absolute Beginning in Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning, I won't attack hastily. His Highness Mu Hong scoffed. Sir God Luo Sha controlled the Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning long ago. If we want it, we definitely can't kill Sir God Luosha and have to catch her alive. As for the mad dog, we can kill him straight away. The treacherous elderly looked at his other two teammates. God Chi, God Ba, let's do this. Hung. The four Sir God experts moved at the same time. Among the four of them, there were three that instantly gave out fierce Sir God aura, and their power pressed to all directions. Then they pounded Sir God Luosha and Sir God Mad Dog like lightning. As for His Highness Mu Hong, he instantly flew in the direction where Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning was located. As the four Sir Gods moved, Sir God Luosha and Sir God Mad Dog moved as well. There was an extra pair of black gloves on Sir God Mad Dog's hand, while the boundless Sir God aura soared up from his body. The aura was tainted with an angry rage. Wow! Sir God Mad Dog's body turned illusory. He originally was one figure, then he instantly became three figures. Just like three flowing lights, they burst out instantly, and the three flowing lights waved their sharp claws simultaneously. There were three figures that performed at the same time, but they immediately merged together when the sharp claws flashed. Wallalala! The void was torn into pieces instantly. Sir God Luosha wielded a green soft sword, and she was engulfed in a cloud of mist. The cloud of mist flew before her opponents, and then the sword light flowed out. Swoosh! 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 One sword light suddenly swept out after another. Every single stroke of sword light carried a billowing hatred. Hate, 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 with extreme hatred. She looked as though she wanted to break their bones and scatter their ashes to the winds. Ha ha, old mad dog, I knew long ago that you had comprehended a power superposition skill. Now that I see it with my own eyes, you live up to the name. It's a pity that you are going to die in the end. The treacherous elderly God Chi and God Ba, the three Sir God experts, immediately greeted them by displaying their powerful skills. Their powers as Sir God experts were given full play by then. The five Sir Gods were fighting vigorously. However, although Sir God Luosha and Sir God Mad Dog were powerful, it was already pushing their limits for the two of them to hold back three Sir Gods. As for His Highness Mu Hong, who was going to Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning, they couldn't do anything about it. Sir God Mad Dog had sent a message to Jian Wushuang long ago. Jian Wushuang, something happened. Hurry up and come out. Chapter 1707, Meeting His Highness Mu Hong Again. Chapter 1707, Meeting His Highness Mu Hong Again. While being shrouded by the infinite amount of pond water in the Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning, Jian Wushuang had closed both his eyes and was still doing his best to absorb the power of Absolute Beginning. The amount of divine power that an inverse cultivator needed to accumulate in the stage of real God had indeed exceeded Jian Wushuang's expectations. For the 100 droplets of ultimate divine power, with the more progress he had made, the harder it would be to precipitate the droplets at the back. Luckily, he was inside the divine pond of Absolute Beginning. If he had relied purely on absorbing the pure power of the demon cores, or relied on his own training to accumulate, he could not imagine the amount of time he would take. To date, 10 years had passed. However, he was still quite far away from the maximum amount of ultimate divine power he could possess in his body. Gurgle, the power of Absolute Beginning, was flowing about, and it entered Jian Wushuang's body continuously. At present, the 88th ultimate divine power water droplet was precipitating slowly in Jian Wushuang's body. It's the 88th droplet. Jian Wushuang was filled with immeasurable joy. 88 droplets was only 12 droplets away from 100 droplets. Hence, it was already very close. If nothing goes wrong, in 2 or 3 years' time, my ultimate divine power can achieve its peak. At that time, I will be able to make a breakthrough to stage 3 ultimate real god, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Just then, Sir God Mad Dog sent a message over to him. Jian Wushuang, something has happened. Come out quickly. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes fiercely. Sir God Mad Dog knew that he was training in the divine pond of absolute beginning. If there was nothing that was extremely urgent, he would definitely not disturb him. However, since Sir God Mad Dog had sent a message over, something big had definitely occurred. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang came out of the divine pond of absolute beginning immediately. However, when he appeared at the top of the void, he saw a figure that was speeding over from afar. Upon seeing the figure, Jian Wushuang was first stunned. After that, his eyes became filled with a great amount of murderous intent right away. His Highness Mu Hong, who Jian Wushuang was staring at, naturally saw Jian Wushuang as well. It's him. Ha! Enemies are really bound to meet each other. His Highness Mu Hong raised his eyebrows. After that, he continued to move toward Jian Wushuang. At the start, when he saw that there was someone beside the divine pond of absolute beginning, he was shocked. However, when he was sure that the person was Jian Wushuang, he stopped having any worries. After all, Jian Wushuang was merely his defeated opponent. In the void, His Highness Mu Hong had already appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, and he had stopped moving. Jian Wushuang, we meet again. His Highness Mu Hong looked at Jian Wushuang coldly, and his eyes were filled with disdain. Jian Wushuang did not speak. However, his face was ice cold. The Blood Mountain sword then appeared on his hands, and a great amount of murderous intent rose from his body slowly. Why? You still wish to fight with me? His Highness Mu Hong sneered. Seems like I did not trample on you for long enough back then. It's a pity that an unforeseen event occurred back then, and you got away. However, this time round, you will not be so lucky. Let me ask you, where is Lung Rushua? Jian Wushuang spoke abruptly. His Highness Mu Hong was stunned. After that, his face became distorted, and he spoke, Damn it, is Lunger's name something trash like you can call out? Where is she? If you refuse to say, I will kill you. Jian Wushuang's voice sounded as though it came from an abysmal hell. Moreover, his body was also approached His Highness Mu Hong slowly. For every step he took, the god power and murderous intent on his body would be stronger. At the start, His Highness Mu Hong did not care about Jian Wushuang at all. However, as Jian Wushuang walked toward him step by step, especially with that huge pressure that was exerted on him such that he was actually suffocating slightly, he started to feel fearful. Humph, you are just a piece of trash. Since you have been trampled by me at another time, it will also be the same this time round. His Highness Mu Hong glowed with a shrill light, and he released his aura of a Sir God immediately. A green sickle also appeared in his hands. His body then turned vague, and layers upon layers of green shadows burst forth at once. As for Jian Wushuang, he just looked on coldly as His Highness Mu Hong attacked him. When he had come across His Highness Mu Hong in the Blood Demon Church the other time, he had merely been a universe god of the second heaven. As for His Highness Mu Hong, he had already made a breakthrough to become a void real god. At that time, when they had come across each other again, Jian Wushuang was a stage 2 ultimate real god, while His Highness Mu Hong, for whatever reason, had somehow made a breakthrough to Sir God, and he had entered the ranks of the Sir Gods. It was a similar encounter and a similar gap in terms of realm. However, the different thing was that the inverse cultivation test would no longer descend abruptly for Jian Wushuang. Trash, go to hell. His Highness Mu Hong's murderous intent burst forth, and an infinite amount of green light appeared from his body. The green light then gathered around his body and changed into a gigantic green god. After that, His Highness Wushuang swung the green sickle in his hands fiercely. At once, a brilliant green sickle river materialized. During the process, the green sickle river expanded at a shocking speed, and it covered the whole universe in the end. The frightening sickle essence that the sickle river contained also seemed to be able to tear everything in the universe apart. Jian Wushuang took a step forward and raised the Blood Mountain sword in his hands abruptly. His vast amount of divine power was then poured into the long sword without any restraint. In the void, crimson sword shadows appeared out of thin air, and every one of them was so strong that it was shocking. Moreover, there was a total of 61 of them. The 61 crimson sword shadows then superimposed onto one another and fused. With that, a destructive power spread across the area. Swish! The crimson sword shadow was swung out straight away. It then split the space, time and heaven. The brilliant sickle river which was in front of Jian Wushuang was destroyed instantly, and the shocking sword essence continued to wreak havoc by tearing open many holes that were tens of thousands of miles big in the surrounding void. The whole universe was submerged by the shocking sword essence. Swoosh! A figure retreated quickly from the void that the sword essence shrouded. It was His Highness Wushuang. However, when His Highness Wushuang just regained his posture, he saw that the void in front of him had collapsed abruptly. After that, an ancient giant finger, which contained an earth-shaking power, pointed toward him right away. Ancient God Six Finger, Sun Corrosion. Since Jian Wushuang had already precipitated a total of 88 ultimate divine power water droplets in his body, the amount of divine power in his body was a lot greater than that in the Almighty's. With such a huge amount of divine power, Jian Wushuang was absolutely not worried about its depletion. As such, he could unleash many strong moves and unique skills without the slightest scruple. Break! With a cry, the green god which covered His Highness Wushuang gave an extremely loud roar. After that, with a violent swing of the sickle on His Highness Wushuang's hands, fierce winds sprang up and changed into a sickle shadow storm which covered an enormous area. The sickle shadow storm struck the ancient giant finger, and both of them turned into dust. However, just then, swish! A ray of golden light, which was dragging its long, golden tail like a comet, headed toward His Highness Wushuang quietly. What? His Highness Wushuang was shocked. It was obvious that the ray of golden light had appeared too abruptly. Chapter 1704, Sir God Luosha's Enmity. Chapter 1704, Sir God Luosha's Enmity. Although I was the one who got the white blaze fruit tree, it is extremely useful to lineage of star. I can exchange a white blaze fruit tree for an opportunity to enter divine pond of absolute beginning. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Sir God Luosha, is there no other possibility? Another possibility? Yes, Sir God Luosha suddenly looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, I read the information recorded on Real God ranking list. It is said that you once injured Sir God Qianlan. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Sir God Qianlan is an almighty from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Why would he fight with you? Sir God Luosha asked. It was because when I was wandering in the 8th lair, I killed one expert after another from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Jian Wushuang briefly shared his story of the 8th lair. Actually, many experts in Eternal Chaotic World knew about the story. However, as Sir God Luosha was secluded from the outside world, she never heard about it. He finished the story. In other words, Soaring Heaven King Palace suffered a great loss because of you? Sir God Luosha's eyes squinted. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded again. I knew about this as well. Sir God Mad Dog spoke. Soaring Heaven King Palace has been barbaric, and they never once suffered. But this time, not only did they suffer a great loss, they were embarrassed. They even became a laughingstock in eternal chaotic world. This is because of Jian Wushuang. I see, Sir God. Luo Sha looked at Jian Wushuang again, but her gaze was different than before. Jian Wushuang, you can enter Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning, and you can stay however long you want, Sir God, Luo Sha said. Huh. Jian Wushuang was thrilled with excitement, and the price is… There's no price required. You can just enter. If there's only one condition, it's that after you increase your power, you'll kill that bastard Ling on my behalf. Sir God, Luo Sha bellowed as murderous intention soared in her eyes. Bastard Ling? Jian Wushuang was stunned. He didn't even know who he was. Jian Wushuang, that bastard Ling that Sir God Luo Sha was talking about, is the founder of Soaring Heaven King Palace, Emperor God Ling. Soaring Heaven King Palace has two emperor gods. Emperor God Ling is the oldest and also the strongest. Compared to Star Palace Master from lineage of Star, he should only be stronger, not weaker. Of course, if Star Palace Master were to perform the secret skill of Star Palace with his all, Emperor God Ling could only run away hastily, Sir God Mad Dog said. Sir God Mad Dog was talking to Jian Wushuang via communication token. Then, Sir God Luo Sha didn't know what they were talking about. Judging from Sir God Luo Sha's look, the rumor should be real, Sir God Mad Dog sighed, emotionally. Rumor? What rumor? Jian Wushuang asked. A rumor said that Sir God Luo Sha once had a loving husband, who was also a Sir God expert. The two of them were like a celestial couple. But then, somehow or other, her husband was killed by Emperor God Ling. Sir God Luo Sha wanted to take revenge on Soaring Heaven King Palace badly, once because of that. However, she was alone. She couldn't cause such a major force like Soaring Heaven King Palace to move, Sir God Mad Dog said. This happened long ago. Plus, Sir God Luo Sha never brought it up herself, so I didn't know if it was true or false. But from what it seems, it should be true. Jian Wushuang, you're lucky, Sir God Mad Dog teased. Jian Wushuang smiled. That was true. He couldn't pay the price that Sir God Luo Sha wanted. He thought he was predestined not to cross paths with Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning. But who knew Sir God Luo Sha harbored such deep hatred against Soaring Heaven King Palace? Jian Wushuang had happened to fight against Soaring Heaven King Palace head-on, which had made them suffer great losses and became a laughing stock. It simply meant that he had vented Sir God Luo Sha's grievance. Jian Wushuang, Sir God Luo Sha looked at Jian Wushuang. You made Soaring Heaven King Palace suffer a great loss, and they definitely won't let it slip. He had almost no chance to counterattack. Plus, the golden light hit him repeatedly, and every hit caused enormous power that shook the divine body. From the continuous hits, he was already injured. If it persisted, he would be killed by Jian Wushuang. If he is here, it'll be impossible for me to get the Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning. As I can't get it, I can only forcibly destroy it. There was a chilly gleam in his Highness Mu Hong's eyes. He flipped his hand, and there were two pearls covered in faint black thunder in his hand. His father passed him the two pearls. They were specially prepared for the mission that day. Its name was God-destroying. His father exhorted that if they couldn't take the Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning, he should use the two God-destroying pearls to destroy the Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning. They couldn't get it, and they couldn't let the Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning fall into the hands of Sanctuary Alliance. God-destroying pearl is powerful. One should be enough to destroy the Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning. As for the remaining one, the boundless murderous intention shimmered in his Highness Mu Hong's eyes as he looked at Jian Wushuang directly. He slashed with his green sickle and shot the golden light aiming at him. He retreated, but it happened to be where Jian Wushuang was. Jian Wushuang, die! Then His Highness Mu Hong extended his palm, and two black lights burst out at the same time. The two black lights, one went towards the divine pond of absolute beginning, while the other one aimed at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's eyes fixed. The moment the black light aimed at him, he had already realized something wasn't right, especially as the pearl was letting out faint black thunder. He sensed an extremely terrifying power. The power struck fear into him. Back off. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang retreated swiftly. As he retreated, he pointed with his finger, and there was sword light that struck the god-destroying pearl like lightning. The god-destroying pearl was far away from Jian Wushuang, and His Highness Mu Hong intended to throw it before Jian Wushuang. But then, as the sword light hit it, it instantly exploded. Hung! Hung! Two vigorous explosions roared simultaneously. The noise shook heaven and earth. The power that it brought about could shock every living thing in the universe. Jian Wushuang had already fallen back to somewhere far away, and the explosion of God-destroying pearl didn't affect him. However, whatever happened before his eyes was daunting to him. He knew clearly that he was lucky to escape the explosions of the two pearls. Otherwise, even if he wasn't dead, he would be in a miserable condition. Jian Wushuang's face suddenly changed, and he looked at the divine pond of absolute beginning. The earlier two pearls, one went towards the divine pond of absolute beginning and exploded directly. From the explosion of the pearl, the divine pond of absolute beginning became too horrible to look at. Chapter 17:09, kill. Chapter 17:09, kill. Damn it! Upon seeing that more than half of the divine pond of absolute beginning had disappeared due to the attack from the god-destroying pearl, and that most of the prohibitions and formations had been destroyed as well, Jian Wushuang's expression turned unusually ugly. You deserve to die. Jian Wushuang was filled with murderous intent. All of a sudden, his body became 10 meters tall, and the aura on his body became more than twice as strong. In the space between his eyebrows, there were 6 stars, and he had impressive god power. Ancient god's secret skill, thunder-attracting skill. Boom. All of a sudden, a giant crack appeared in the quiet sky, and a total of 9 giant sacred thunders descended from it. At the same time, the 2 Hongjun golden swords, which were floating in the void, trembled crazily and headed toward His Highness Mu Hong, one from the left and the other one from the right. Not good. This Jian Wushuang is actually not dead. His Highness Mu Hong's face was filled with fear. In particular, when he saw the 2 Hongjun golden swords, which were heading toward him at the same time, he shook with terror. Run! Without any hesitation, His Highness Mu Hong did his best to escape straight away. As for the Sir God-level black battle puppet, he left it behind to block Jian Wushuang. The 9 sacred thunders that descended from the heavens were unable to be aimed at His Highness Mu Hong in time. As such, it could only attack the black battle puppet together with the 2 Hongjun golden swords. In just a short amount of time, the Sir God-level battle puppet was defeated. With a wave of Jian Wushuang's big hands, the damaged battle puppet was put into his Qian Kuan ring. It's impossible for you to run away. Jian Wushuang had an overwhelming amount of murderous intent. As he looked at His Highness Mu Hong, who was still within his line of vision, his body turned vague, and a great number of shadows appeared at the same time. With that, his speed achieved his peak instantly. Other than being struck with terror, His Highness Mu Hong was running away with all his might. After just an instant, he had already escaped to the other battlefield. Save me, please save me quickly." Even though His Highness Mu Hong had just arrived at that battlefield, his mad cry for help had already spread. What? The three Sir Gods, the gloomy old man, God Qi and God Ba, were currently fighting an intense battle with Sir God Luosha and Sir God Mad Dog. Moreover, they were in a very advantageous position. However, after hearing the cries for help, the expressions of the three of them changed greatly at the same time. The gloomy old man gave up on dealing with Sir God Mad Dog immediately and headed for His Highness Mu Hong right away. "Your Highness Mu Hong, what's wrong?" The gloomy old man appeared beside His Highness Mu Hong. "It's Jian Wushuang. He's hunting me down." His Highness Mu Hong roared repeatedly. The gloomy old man turned his head at once and just happened to see Jian Wushuang, whose face was filled with murderous intent, coming over. "Jian Wushuang is actually here as well?" The gloomy old man's expression turned grave, and he asked straight away, "Your Highness, what about the divine pond of absolute beginning?" "It has been destroyed," His Highness Mu Hong said. "That's good." The gloomy old man heaved a sigh of relief. Although they did not manage to snatch the divine pond of absolute beginning away, their mission was considered complete since the divine pond of absolute beginning had been destroyed. "We have completed our mission. Stop dealing with them, and let's leave quickly." The gloomy old man gave a shrill cry. After that, the two Sir Gods, God Qi and God Ba, who were still in combat, retreated immediately. It's not that easy to escape. Sir God Luosha's face was filled with madness. At that time, her whole person was within the dense fog, and the dense fog covered a great area of the universe. Moreover, the sword principles, which contained a tremendous amount of extreme hatred, burst forth repeatedly with the intention of keeping the Sir Gods in front back. "All of you shall stay here." Similarly, Sir God Mad Dog unleashed an enormous amount of evil aura, and he had already changed into an exotic beast. Moreover, the exotic beast was extremely gigantic. It was more than 100 feet tall, and it had a total of 6 claws. Its frightening, murderous intent also covered a humongous area, and it was earth-shaking. "Retreat quickly." The gloomy old man and the 3 remaining people absolutely did not have the intention of staying behind and dealing with him. After all, they were Sir God experts, and there was a total of 4 of them. If they really wanted to escape, it would be difficult for Sir God Luosha and Sir God Mad Dog to keep them back. However, at that moment, all of you don't think that any of you can escape. All of a sudden, a voice which was filled with shocking, murderous intent and anger resounded across the universe. It was Jian Wushuang, who had arrived at the battlefield. His eyes were evil like an enraged, ferocious beast, and he was staring at the 4 Sir Gods in front who were preparing to leave persistently. To be more exact, he was staring at His Highness Mu Hong. Anyone could leave. However, His Highness Mu Hong alone had to remain. Even if he could not be captured alive, he had to be killed. It was not just because of the fact that His Highness Mu Hong had destroyed the divine pond of absolute beginning. It was also not because of the fact that His Highness Mu Hong had trampled on him back then in the Blood Demon Church. Instead, it was because His Highness Mu Hong had actually called Lung Rushua Lunger. What an intimate way of calling her. Perhaps the person who he had called was Lung Rushua, and it was unrelated to Lung Wushuang, who was Jian Wushuang's wife. Or perhaps Lung Rushua had never paid any attention to His Highness Mu Hong at all. However, His Highness Mu Hong obviously had the intention to get close to Lung Rushua, and the body that Lung Rushua possessed was the body of Lung Wushuang. Anyone who touched the forbidden lamella of a dragon had to die. Lung Rushua was his forbidden lamella, ancient god secret skill, moon-picking skill. Buzz. The void shook. All of a sudden, a peculiar power took effect on the void, and in a split second, the void collapsed into pieces at a speed that naked eyes could not perceive. At the same time, the power spread toward the four Sir Gods, His Highness Mu Hong, the gloomy old man, God Qi, and God Ba. With that, the bodies of the four Sir Gods shook, and their eyes revealed a bit of fear at the same time. At that moment, the whole universe, heaven, space, and time headed toward the four of them with the intention of crushing them completely into fine powder. It was as if they were being repelled by the universe, space, and time. It was as if they should not have existed in the world. It was too strange. Moreover, the most important thing was that it was impossible to block the attack. The frightening, crushing power unleashed its effects straight away. Out of the four Sir Gods, His Highness Mu Hong was actually the weakest. After withstanding the repelling power for not long, he spit out a mouthful of blood right away. As for the remaining three of them, under the suppression of space and time, their expressions became a lot paler. However, just as the repelling power of space and time was about to dissipate, two brilliant rays of golden light lit up abruptly. The places that they lit up were beside His Highness Mu Hong. One was in front, while the other one was behind him. "Your Highness, please be careful." Upon realizing that, the gloomy old man warned him immediately. However, at such a close distance, even with a warning, it was already too late. His Highness Mu Hong had opened his eyes wide, and he was looking at the rays of golden light in front of him, which were expanding in size continuously. He was totally unable to react, and his mind was completely empty. That was the result of him growing up in a greenhouse. If it were a Sir God, who had grown up in the face of terror, he might still be able to react upon seeing the two rays of golden light. At the very least, he would be able to unleash some defensive moves. However, His Highness Mu Hong was just a dimwit. At that moment, he was completely stunned, and he did not resist at all. Chapter 1710, Damaged. Chapter 1710, Damaged. Psst, psst. There were two rays of golden light. One ray went through His Highness Mu Hong's chest, and the other ray pierced through his head. The power contained in the golden light instantly exterminated His Highness Mu Hong's vigor. His Highness Mu Hong stood there like a silly man, but his consciousness had already dispersed. Looking at the sight, the treacherous elders, God Qi and God Ba's faces grew pale. They knew clearly the identity of His Highness Mu Hong. They also knew of the terrifying existence behind his back. At first, the mission that day was merely for His Highness Mu Hong to have some experience. Because of him, they had even dispatched 3 Sir God experts to safeguard him. On top of that, His Highness Mu Hong had had the war puppet too. There was in total 4 Sir Gods that safeguarded him, and His Highness Mu Hong was a Sir God himself. With such a formation, theoretically, there shouldn't be any accident. But in the end, His Highness Mu Hong had died. In front of them, he was killed. "How dare you?" "Jian Wushuang, just you wait. What happened today won't end so easily. For His Highness Mu Hong's death, someone will look for you and take revenge." The treacherous elderly's roar shook the earth while he brought His Highness Mu Hong's dead body with him and ran away with the other 2 Sir Gods. Jian Wushuang didn't continue to chase after them, but watched them leave. The void finally quieted down again. "Jian Wushuang, well done." Sir God Mad Dog's voice seemed a little surprised. "Wushuang, very impressive," Sir God Luo Sha said. When the 4 Sir Gods had run away at the same time, although the 2 of them had tried their best, they couldn't make any one of them stay back. But Jian Wushuang had performed a great trick and killed one of them. The person seemed to be the most important person. Jian Wushuang shook his head when he heard what they said. It's a pity that my power is slightly weaker. If my comprehension towards any one of space-time doctrine and reincarnation doctrine were to break through and pass the 7th level of Doctrine Palace, or if I were to break through and become a stage 3 ultimate real god, I could make all of them stay back. But it's good that I could make one stay. At least we didn't let all them retreat in a complete troop, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Oh, yeah, the divine pond of absolute beginning. Jian Wushuang suddenly spoke. Sir God Luo Sha's face changed, and she immediately plunged in the direction where the divine pond of absolute beginning was located. Jian Wushuang and Sir God Mad Dog followed. When they were near to the divine pond of absolute beginning, Sir God Luo Sha's face grew pale, but she immediately rushed into the divine pond. Jian Wushuang and Sir God Mad Dog stayed in the void above the divine pond. As they overlooked the sight below, the two of them looked awful too. They could tell that the divine pond of absolute beginning was severely damaged. Not only was more than half of the pond gone, an enormous amount of the power of absolute beginning in the pond was vanishing into thin air as well. At that point, there was about 30% of the power gone, and they continued to disperse. It's due to the formation, Sir God Mad Dog explained. I heard from Sir God Sha Luo before that the divine pond of absolute beginning developed and evolved from one drop of power of absolute beginning. The evolution of power of absolute beginning is carried out with a unique formation. However, a lot of the formations are damaged and even collapsed. The balanced cycle of the divine pond of absolute beginning was interrupted. Not only did the evolvement slow, it was declining. If she doesn't repair the formation in time, the power of absolute beginning will evaporate. Jian Wushuang's face grew grave when he heard that. Very soon, Sir God Luo Sha plunged out of the divine pond. Sir God Luo Sha, how is it? Sir God Mad Dog asked closely. At such a crucial moment, he didn't have the mood to make a joke with Sir God Luo Sha and make fun of her by calling her old witch. A large amount of formations in the divine pond are damaged. Fortunately, the evolution formation merely shattered by half, so there's a possibility to recover it. The core of the divine pond isn't damaged either. I have temporarily steadied the divine pond so that the power of absolute power won't continue to evaporate. However, it is only for temporary. I have to immediately invite experts who are good at formations to come over to recover this, Sir God Luo Sha said. The damage is so severe. Sir God Mad Dog's voice was low. I have to take the blame. Jian Wushuang blamed himself. The Sir God that I killed was important to me because he most likely knows the whereabouts of my wife. That's why I didn't want to kill him at first and only wanted to capture him alive. But I didn't know. Jian Wushuang did feel very sorry. Sir God Luo Sha didn't need him to pay anything, but let him absorb the power of absolute beginning in the divine pond of absolute beginning. However, due to an unexpected incident, his selfish thought had led to the divine pond of absolute beginning being very nearly ruined. One should know that if he were to kill His Highness Mu Hong right at the beginning with his skills, there wouldn't be a scene where the divine pond was damaged. I can understand your feelings. I don't blame you for what happened. Sir God Luo Sha shook her head. She was an emotional person herself. Her husband's death had driven her insane too. Jian Wushuang had also turned irrational because of his wife. Most importantly, Jian Wushuang had never thought His Highness Mu Hong would have two god-destroying pearls that were so powerful. When he responded, it was already too late. He could only take revenge on His Highness Mu Hong and kill him. Jian Wushuang, originally you could stay as long as you wanted in this divine pond, even until your divine power reached the ultimate achievement. But now, the divine pond is damaged, and I have to get someone to fix it immediately. So, for quite a long time, there won't be anyone who enters the divine pond. You will have to wait until the divine pond resumes its normal operation. In short, I can't let you continue to absorb the power of absolute beginning. Sir God Luo Sha said, I have gained a great harvest from the divine pond. I, Jian Wushuang, definitely won't forget your favor. As for the rest of the accumulation of divine power, I'll work hard on my own, Jian Wushuang said. Sir God Luo Sha nodded faintly. Oh yeah, you are so well hidden. Even in Sanctuary Alliance, there are less than 10 people who know your whereabouts. How did the people find out where you are? Sir God Mad Dog creased his eyebrows and asked, Who knows? Holocaust Sect and Acheron Palace. Humph! No one knows the tricks of those two hated parties. Luckily, the two of you happen to be here with me. Otherwise, with me alone, I'm afraid I couldn't save the divine pond, nor would I still be alive, Sir God Luo Sha humphed coldly. Sir God Luo Sha, Sir God Mad Dog, sounded very serious. Holocaust Sect and Acheron Palace found your location and locked their target at the divine pond of absolute beginning. In the near future, you would definitely live in chaos. My advice to you is that you discuss with the few people from Sanctuary Alliance. Sir God Luo Sha squinted her eyes slightly when she heard that. Chapter 17:11, Fly into a Rage. Chapter 17:11, Fly into a Rage. This was a crimson world. The sky contained a crimson sun. At the center of the crimson world, there was a bloody hole. It was a lofty hall. On the walls of the big hall, there were many gigantic and hideous faces. The eyes of the faces were so sinister and vicious that they made people fearful of them. The three Sir God experts, the gloomy old man, God Qi, and God Ba were in the big hall. However, at present, the three of them no longer had the airs of superiority of a Sir God expert. On the contrary, they were on their knees and bowing down. It was to the extent that they knelt down straight away, and they were trembling in fear. There was no other reason. The only reason was that His Highness Mu Hong had died. Died. Hong has actually died. A golden-robed figure was sitting down at the highest position of the big hall. He wore a crimson ghost mask, and his looks could not be seen clearly. However, the gloomy, shocking, murderous intent that he was currently releasing had caused the three Sir Gods below to shiver in fear. The mission this time around is not considered too difficult. By my logic, if we were to send two Sir God experts over, as long as they were careful, they would also be able to complete the mission. However, I sent the three of you and Hunger there. Do you know why I did that? The strange eyes that the golden-robed figure revealed were looking down at the three people. The three of them was shaking in fear. Of course, they knew the reason why the Lord in front of them had sent them there. It was naturally to protect and assist His Highness Mu Hong. However, in the end, although Honger has died, the three of them survived. The golden-robed figure struck the seat with his hands, and an invisible power spread across the area. Puff, puff, puff. At that moment, the three Sir Gods who were kneeling down in the big hall spit out blood at the same time, and their expressions turned deathly pale immediately. However, such a situation did not cause the three of them to tremble in fear. Instead, they were quite happy, because they were still alive. Thank you, Lord, for sparing us. The three of them kowtowed and said gratefully, If not for now being a critical period and the fact that I lack people, the three of you would have died. An ice-cold voice could be heard from the golden-robed figure. The person who killed Honga was that Jian Wushuang. It's him, the gloomy old man who was kneeling down on the ground, continued speaking. This Jian Wushuang is a lot stronger than what the real God ranking list has introduced him to be. It is obvious that his abilities have risen again during this short hundreds of years of time, and the current him is probably considered extremely strong among the Sir Gods. Haha, Jian Wushuang. When I heard his name last time, it was when his identity as an inverse cultivator was exposed. At that time, he had merely achieved the fighting capabilities of an eternal real god. From then to now, how long has it been? He has actually gotten himself established among the Sir Gods. If we were to give him another period of time, wouldn't I be unable to do anything against him as well? What about the Acheron Palace? Could it be that the Acheron Palace is sitting by and doing nothing? With such a huge threat present, they have still not gotten rid of it. Could it be that they really want to wait for him to become a great emperor who is an extremely high level before taking action? The golden-robed figure was roaring. His voice was so loud that it echoed within the big hall continuously. Please go and send a message to the Acheron Palace. If the Acheron Palace is really that useless, then they can simply become the Holocaust sect's underling and take orders from us. The Holocaust sect shall then be the one to deal with Jian Wushuang. If the Acheron Palace is still of some use, they had better kill Jian Wushuang while it's still early. I will only give them 1,000 years of time. Within 1,000 years, if Jian Wushuang were to not die, I shall cut the connections between the Holocaust sect and the Acheron Palace. In the dark, starry sky, there was a dark land floating about. Many lofty mountains stood tall and upright on the land. The mountains were 1,000,000 feet tall. Even the smallest one was more than 100,000 feet tall. At the center of the mountains, there was a dark, divine hall which was floating quietly in the air. Within the vast hall, guards who were covered by dim light were standing tall and upright. Under the eyes of those guards, a black-robed figure came to the big hall and reported some information. Oh, the son of the Holocaust sect's 7th palace master has died, and he was killed by Jian Wushuang? A deep, hoarse voice reverberated within the big hall. Although the voice seemed to come from all directions, the speaker had never shown himself. Humph, his son has always been a piece of trash. If he is dead, it means that he has really died. However, the 7th palace master actually unleashed his fury on the Acheron Palace. What a joke! However, this matter has also given us a reminder. Jian Wushuang, his speed of improvement is too fast. Hundreds of years ago, he merely wounded Sir God Qianlong fatally in the 8th lair. However, at that time, Sir God Qianlong did not go all out, nor did he fight with all his might. Comparing abilities, he was not weaker than Jian Wushuang. However, now, in just a short few hundreds of years, he killed a Sir God. Moreover, he killed the Sir God while he was under the protection of 3 Sir Gods. With such a fast speed of improvement, if the Acheron Palace wishes to kill him, it will soon be too late. Looks like we can no longer place our hopes on the soaring Heaven King Palace. We have to be the ones to do it ourselves. Moreover, we have to do it immediately. The Acheron Palace had always been hidden extremely deeply within the darkness, and they would not take action easily. Moreover, they would not take action unless there was a need to. Previously, they had thought that since Jian Wushuang was fighting with the soaring Heaven King Palace, they would leave them to continue fighting and let the soaring Heaven King Palace kill Jian Wushuang. However, at that time, they had to do it themselves. Devise a plan to assassinate Jian Wushuang immediately. Moreover, for the devised plan, there must be more than a 90% chance of assassinating him successfully. Within 1,000 years, we must complete the assassination of Jian Wushuang. The Acheron Palace will not allow such a top genius to continue living even for another 1,000 years. The hoarse, deep voice ordered. All right, The respectful black-robed man, who was awaiting his orders, nodded his head. After that, he started to make preparations. The Acheron Palace was definitely a dark powerhouse that the Sanctuary Alliance was most worried about. Its level of threat was even higher than that of the Holocaust sect. After all, although the Holocaust sect was evil and they would massacre wantonly, the people who they massacred were mostly weaklings. However, the Acheron Palace focused on assassinating higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance as well as geniuses. Furthermore, as soon as the Acheron Palace set themselves to killing a person and devised an assassination plan in detail, the probability of the expert surviving the assassination would definitely be less than 10%. At that moment, the Acheron Palace had started to devise the assassination plan to assassinate Jian Wushuang. As for Jian Wushuang, he was completely clueless about it. He knew that the talents and potential that he had revealed would definitely attract the attention of some dark powerhouses. However, he did not know that the dark powerhouses would think so highly of him. Moreover, he did not have a very good understanding of the techniques and abilities of the dark powerhouses. However, as he had made ample preparations and was vigilant, he was not that afraid of them. Chapter 17:12, Taiqing Ancient Panacea. Chapter 17:12, Taiqing Ancient Panacea. Jian Wushuang and Sir God Mad Dog left Sir God Luo Sha's. As for Sir God Luo Sha, she had already informed the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance. There would definitely be a negotiation and trade between her and the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance. In short, Sir God Luo Sha definitely wouldn't continue to occupy Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning alone. Jian Wushuang, you have stayed in Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning for at least 10 years. How did it go? Sir God Mad Dog asked casually. Not bad. Jian Wushuang smiled, but there was a tinge of regret in his heart. He really regretted it. If he were to be given another 2 to 3 years, the ultimate divine power in his body would reach his extreme limit, and he could finally break through and become Stage 3 Ultimate Real God. It was a pity because the divine pond of Absolute Beginning was severely damaged, and he couldn't continue to absorb the power. How much more divine power do you need to accumulate for you reach your extreme limit? Sir God Mad Dog seemed to be asking casually. Not much, but if I were to have to accumulate it slowly on my own, it should require another 10 of thousands of years, Jian Wushuang said. So long more. Sir God Mad Dog squinted his eyes. He thought for a while and finally made a decision. Boy, as you are quite polite to me, I shall share something with you. Something? Jian Wushuang was confused. You should know that I have been staying in Thunderbolt Island all this while, but I suddenly left Thunderbolt Island and headed to Holy Kingdom of Dark Light. There definitely must be a reason, Sir God Mad Dog said. Not long ago, I received news. In Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, someone who found Sir God Danhong's cave dwelling. Sir God Danhong is an ancient Sir God, and he passed away long ago. As for how he died, no one knows. It is said that although Sir God Danhong wasn't powerful, and he was on the bottom of the list, the elixirs that he refined are extraordinary. He is known to be extremely capable in elixir making, which is hard to come by in eternal chaotic world. He once refined many kinds of high-level elixirs, and some of the elixirs are extremely useful to Sir Gods. He also once refined an extremely unique elixir called Taiqing Ancient Panacea. It is a very unique elixir, and only he could refine it. It contained a shocking amount of divine power. It is said that a Sir God that exhausted his divine power could recover to his peak in a short period of time if he consumed a Taiqing Ancient Panacea. Even an Emperor God could at least recover half of his divine power after taking the elixir. Jian Wushuang's eyes shimmered with joy when he heard that. If Taiqing ancient panacea contains such a shocking amount of divine power, it should be quite useful to those Sir Gods and Emperor Gods. If they were to run into trouble, it would be extremely useful. To Jian Wushuang, Taiqing ancient panacea contains such boundless divine power, and he could absorb it directly. In eternal chaotic world, there is a variety of elixirs that contains pure divine power. However, one that contains such shockingly high amount of divine power, there aren't many besides Taiqing ancient panacea. Even if there is, they are extremely rare. One who couldn't play a certain kind of trick wouldn't be able to get them. Jian Wushuang nodded faintly as he understood that too. Previously, it was not that he had never considered precipitating his ultimate divine power droplet via consumption of elixir that contained pure divine power. It was just that the elixirs were extremely pricey, and also the divine power that they contained was nothing compared to the 100 drops of ultimate divine power droplet. To rely entirely on elixir or natural treasure for him to accumulate divine power to his extreme limit, even lineage of star couldn't afford the price. Hence, he had come to the divine pond of absolute beginning. Because such elixirs are too rare and too precious, Sir God Danhong's cave dwelling is extremely attractive. After all, Sir God Danhong might have left a lot of elixirs in his cave dwelling. There might even be some Taiqing ancient panaceas. Sir God Mad Dog smiled. When the news spread, it attracted the attention of many almighties in Sanctuary Alliance. However, it's a pity that Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu is Sir God Lu Yin's territory. Sir God Lu Yin isn't weak among Sir Gods. He also has a high position in Sanctuary Alliance. He came out personally and took action for the almighties in Sanctuary Alliance to give up the idea. They gave up, but I didn't. I still want to try the taste of Taiqing ancient panacea. So, I came out from Thunderbolt Island to go to Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Who knew I would run into you and bring you to Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning? So what happened to Sir God Danhong's cave dwelling? Jian Wushuang asked. It's interesting, Sir God Mad Dog smiled. I received news saying there are many elixirs left in Sir God Danhong's cave dwelling, and more than 90% of the elixirs went to Sir God Lu Yin. However, somehow or other, the most important Taiqing ancient panacea among all elixirs, of which there is a total of 9, fell into the hands of a universe god. Universe god? Jian Wushuang was astonished. Something that an almighty was eyeing fell into the hands of a universe god. Was this a joke? I don't know what happened exactly, but Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu is in chaos. There are many people who are looking for the universe god, but they have yet to find, even now, Sir God Mad Dog smiled. Jian Wushuang, as you need to accumulate divine power, the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas should be helpful to you. Of course, you must first figure out a way to get the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. Thank you, Sir God Mad Dog, for telling me. I shall depart to Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu now. Jian Wushuang said, Go ahead. It's not too far from here to Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. If you were to rush over now, you should be able to get there in time. Sir God Mad Dog waved his hand. He himself wasn't interested in Taiqing ancient panacea anymore. After all, he only wanted to eat Taiqing ancient panacea and to try the taste of it. It wasn't like he needed it. However, it was different for Jian Wushuang. When Jian Wushuang found out about Taiqing ancient panacea, he immediately went to Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. He was really interested with Taiqing ancient panacea. After all, the divine power contained in Taiqing ancient panacea was shockingly enormous. It was extremely useful to his accumulation of divine power, and there were 9 of them. If he could get the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas and consume them, He reckoned that even if the divine power in his body couldn't reach its extreme limit, it shouldn't be too far away from precipitating the 100 ultimate divine power droplets. Jian Wushuang hurried his journey at his maximum speed in the spaceship. He merely used a dozen years' time before he arrived at Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Chapter 1713, Ming Pub. Chapter 1713, Ming Pub. In the eternal chaotic world, gaps exist between different border areas as well as between different holy kingdoms. Some holy kingdoms were powerful, while some holy kingdoms were weak. For example, the snow kingdom that Jian Wushuang first set foot in when he came to the eternal chaotic world was extremely far away from the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, and it belonged to one of the very remote holy kingdoms. Moreover, it was also an extremely weak holy kingdom that did not have many real gods. However, the holy kingdom of Real Wushu was absolutely an extremely powerful holy kingdom. Moreover, the holy kingdom of Real Wushu and the 16 other surrounding holy kingdoms were all under an almighty. This almighty was known as Sir God, Lu Yin. The Ming Mountain was a famous mountain range in the holy kingdom of Real Wushu. The mountain range was famous for its fighting prowess, not because of the fact that impressive experts had appeared from it or because some powerhouses were present. It was because of the fact that the mountain range was the biggest place in the holy kingdom of Real Wushu where most bandits were concentrated in. The Ming Mountain stretched across hundreds of millions of miles, and there were more than 1,000 million bandits in it. Among those bandits, there were powerful ones as well as weak ones. The weak ones were normal heaven masters, while the average ones were universe gods, which were great in number. In addition, there was quite a number of real gods within the mountain range. Due to the bandits running wild, the mountain range had a very bad name. On normal days, if there was no need to, many of the cultivators in the holy kingdom of Real Wushu would absolutely not choose to go into the Ming Mountain. However, ever since more than 10 years ago, where the universe god, known as He Xiu, escaped into the Ming Mountain, the Ming Mountain had become extremely lively. He Xiu was the universe god who possessed the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. As soon as he escaped into the Ming Mountain, many experts who had cast their greedy eyes on his 9 Taiqing ancient panacea came to the Ming Mountain and started to search for him crazily. It should be known that there were too many cultivators who had cast their eyes on the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. Moreover, most of them were experts. This also included many powerhouses and sects of the holy kingdom of Real Wushu, as well as the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms. The number of cultivators was uncountable. With so many experts of the powerhouses and sects going into the Ming Mountain, the bandits within the Ming Mountain were totally unable to hold their ground against them. Hence, they were naturally affected. However, it was not easy to find a universe god within thousands of millions of bandits. Hence, to date, after more than tens of years had passed, no one had found He Xiu yet. At a spacious main road, which was near the center region of the Ming Mountain, there was an exquisite pub, and it was called the Ming Pub. The pub was only built recently, and it was a rest area specially built for the experts who were looking for He Xiu in the mountain range. In addition, much information regarding the Ming Mountain was also exchanged in the pub. For example, if a universe god who looked like He Xiu were to appear somewhere in the Ming Mountain or within any group of bandits, the pub would make this information public immediately. For such a kind of pub, they could be found in each and every corner of the Ming Mountain. Just then, this pub was extremely lively, and there were at least hundreds of cultivators talking wantonly. Some of them were drinking wine and chatting while some of them were exchanging information. Swoosh! All of a sudden, a blood-robed youth who was carrying a sword landed in the open space outside the pub. After that, he suppressed his aura and entered the pub slowly. "This mister over here, may I know what you need?" A green-clothed young lady behind the counter asked. "Give me detailed information regarding He Xiu as well as what has happened in the Hongming Mountain in this period of time. Also, give me a bottle of wine," Jian Wushuang said. "No problem, but I will require you to pay 200,000 divine gems," the green-clothed young lady said. 200,000 divine gems were equivalent to all the possessions of a weak universe god. However, to Jian Wushuang, it was too little to make a difference. At present, his social status was that of an almighty. For the 100,000 doctrine gems which he had obtained from the Soaring Heaven King Palace, one of them was equivalent to hundreds of millions of divine gems. The green-clothed young lady gave the report to Jian Wushuang. After receiving it, Jian Wushuang found a random seat within the pub and sat down. After that, he started to browse through the report. Many cultivators within the pub knew that Jian Wushuang had come for He Xiu. However, they were not too concerned about him. After all of them had come for He Xiu as well. Moreover, as Jian Wushuang had suppressed his aura, they were unable to tell how strong Jian Wushuang was, and they treated him like a universe god who was similar to them. Little did they imagine that the person who was sitting with them was a super existence who would be able to make the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu shiver with fear, with a stomp of his foot. Oh, no wonder a universe god like He Xiu can obtain the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. So it's like that. As Jian Wushuang looked at the report in his hands, he shook his head. The main reason could be explained in one word: greed. It was not He Xiu who was greedy. Instead, it was the elders of He Xiu. According to the report, He Xiu was born into the He family, which was a big family in the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. The He family had always been cordial to the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Moreover, in the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, it was definitely a big powerhouse that could get into the top 5 among the powerhouses of the Holy Kingdom. Back then, when Sir God Danhong's cave was discovered within the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, as the cave was too huge and it contained many mazes, it naturally required a huge number of experts to explore it. Hence, the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu sent many experts under him to explore the cave. These experts included many experts from the He family, and even He Xiu's father was included. After searching the cave inside out, quite a number of experts under the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu had died, but many of the elixirs that were left behind by Sir God Danhong were retrieved in the end. However, it was a pity that among the elixirs that were retrieved, the Taiqing ancient panacea was not present. Against that, the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, as well as the almighty Sir God Luin who was behind him, could not do anything, and they could only assume that Sir God Danhong had not left any Taiqing ancient panaceas behind. After all the elixirs that he had left behind were only discovered at the very end, and they were inside 3 Qian Kuan rings. As such, no one could steal anything secretly. Hence, this matter was about to come to an end. However, who could have known that the experts who were exploring Sir God Danhong's cave would unintentionally discover a secret room at the very end? Moreover, it should be known that the secret room originally contained an opportunity as well as a total of 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. However, when the secret room was discovered, the opportunity and the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas had already disappeared. This meant that among the experts under the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, someone had obtained the opportunity and the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. However, they hid them quietly and did not turn them over. Sir God Luin then became furious. At the same time, the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu was also enraged, and both of them started to investigate. With the investigation, they found their way to the He family. It was an expert of the He family. Moreover, it was He Xiu's father who obtained the opportunity and Taiqing ancient panacea in the secret room by coincidence. However, due to his greed where he wanted them for himself, he invited a great disaster to the He family and caused it to be destroyed. Chapter 17:14. Alike? Chapter 17:14. Alike. He Xiu is quite pitiful. Jian Wushuang shook his head and sighed. According to the information, He Xiu was the top genius of the young generation in He family. Not only was he talented, his mental state was terrifyingly strong. He had extremely great potential. However, after the news of him privately possessing opportunity and Taiqing ancient Panacea spread, He Xiu suffered the calamity of his family being exterminated. Almost the entire He family was killed. Only he managed to escape along with the opportunity and Taiqing ancient Panacea. Then he ran into you, Ming Mountain, and countless experts chased after him. He was originally a god's favored one, but he was being hunted. He Xiu was, of course, pitiful. Although he was pitiful, Jian Wushuang wouldn't pity him at all. After all, he was one of those who were chasing after He Xiu. In the pub, Jian Wushuang was drinking alone. At the same time, he continued to flip through the information. Then, a dozen figures came into the pub from outside. These people let their auras spread, wantonly. All of them were peak universe gods in the third heaven. Among their leader, a brown-haired man, was already a void real god. One should know that they were only in one of the holy kingdoms, not a place like the 10 sanctuaries. A real god leading a dozen of peak universe gods in the third heaven, such a troop was terrifying enough. These people are from Ling family. Ling family, the originally noisy pub, instantly went quiet. Everyone in the pub was looking at the dozens of people from Ling family who had just walked it. Most of them had fear in their eyes. Ling family. Jian Wushuang took a glance at the people. From the information that he had just read, Ling family was like the He family that was exterminated. They were both big families in Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, but they were slightly more powerful than He family. However, Jian Wushuang couldn't even be bothered by the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, let alone Ling family. With a simple glance, Jian Wushuang continued to drink while he read the information on hand. The few of you go away? The brown-haired man, who was the leader of the people from Ling family, looked at the few cultivators at the table before him and pressed over with his real god aura. The few warriors' faces grew pale from the pressure, and they immediately gave their table up with hesitation. The brown-haired man sat at the table, and there was someone who poured him a drink immediately. Humph! He Xiu, that bastard, he is so well hidden. It has been over 10 years, and we have yet to find him. The brown-haired man roared without any cover-up. Ling family and He family were the two strongest families in Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. They were normally sworn enemies. Then, as He family was in trouble, Ling family was, of course, the happiest party. Ling family was also the most hard-working party that was chasing after He Xiu from He family. The brown-haired man was burning with rage. He chugged his drink and looked around him. Looking at the gaze of the brown-haired man, everyone in the pub lowered their heads. Only Jian Wushuang was still flipping through the information in his hand. Huh! The brown-haired man's gaze stopped at Jian Wushuang. This person... It wasn't because Jian Wushuang didn't lower his head that he noticed Jian Wushuang, but because of Jian Wushuang's attire. The brown-haired man flipped his hand, and there was a copy of the information in his hand. He was from Ling family, and Ling family knew He family the best. He was also very familiar with He Xiu. Hence, the copy of the information about He Xiu that he had was in much more in detail than the one provided by Ming Pub. Crimson robe, carrying a sword on his back. Back when He Xiu was wandering, he dressed in a crimson robe and carried a sword on his back, exactly like this person before me. Both of their features look very young, too. The brown-haired man fixed his gaze. He had never seen He Xiu before, nor did he have He Xiu's portrait, but he knew He Xiu's attire. He Xiu was good with a sword, and he was crazy about swords. So, he always carried a sword on his back. You saw He Xiu once. Is it this person? The brown-haired man looked to a universe god from Ling family next to him and asked, "Misted, when I saw He Xiu back then, I only saw him from afar. I didn't see his facial features. But in terms of body shape and attire, the two of them are quite similar. But He Xiu is running for his life. He wouldn't come to Ming Pub like an idiot and not bother to disguise himself." The universe god from Ling family said, "Humph, we will find out if it is him when we question him." The brown-haired man humped coldly. He looked at Jian Wushuang with a sharp glare. "Young man, come here." As he humphed, his real god-level pressure pressed onto Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang continued to flip through the information in his hand, but he glanced at the brown-haired man. "You'd better not provoke me. Otherwise, you'll regret it." "Ha ha! In Holy Kingdom of real Wushu, who has the capability to make Ling family regretful? This is such a joke. Young man, you'd better take out your Qian Kuan ring for me to check. Otherwise, I will kill you and check your Qian Kuan ring after." The brown-haired man scoffed, but it was doubtlessly a commanding tone. The universe gods from Ling family, who stood behind him, were smirking coldly too. Then Jian Wushuang didn't speak anymore, but extended his finger slowly and pointed in the direction of the brown-haired man. Virum! A shapeless sword intention swept out. The sword shadow looked weak and didn't seem to be powerful at all. But when it appeared, it instantly flew before the brown-haired man. The brown-haired man was still smiling, but there was a sudden shock in his eyes. The sword shadow flew past his body, then through the universe gods' bodies behind him. Then the sword shadow quivered and dispersed. Jian Wushuang reined back his palm and raised his glass to take a sip. In this world, there are so many idiots. Even though he is already a real god, Jian Wushuang muttered and remained at ease. The cultivators from Ling family, their bodies stiffened on the spot and then fell one after another. Then there was not a squeak, but only blood that constantly flowed out from their wounds. Every cultivator in the pub saw the scene, and their faces grew pale. They looked at Jian Wushuang with an unprecedentedly terrified look. Real God was an absolute superb expert in Holy Kingdom of real Wushu. However, a superb expert was just like an ant when he was killed by the person before their eyes, so casually. Such power! These people immediately understood that the young man in the crimson robe who was sitting alone while he read the information was truly a top expert. He was at least the level of an eternal real God, or even higher. Chapter 1715, Ling Family. Chapter 1715, Ling Family. The Ming Pub became quiet again. As for the bodies of the experts of the Ling family, some people from the pub came to remove them immediately. However, after that, no one in the hub dared to make a racket. They even dared not to talk loudly, as they were frightened that they might make Jian Wushuang dissatisfied. Jian Wushuang was too lazy to care about it, and he continued to look at the report. However, all of a sudden, the green-clothed young lady behind the pub's counter walked to Jian Wushuang. This lord over here, the green-clothed young lady, was modest, and she was not too fearful. "What's the matter?" Jian Wushuang did not even turn his head back. "Lord, do you know that the people who you just killed were experts from the Ling family, and that they are only inferior to the king? Throughout the ages, the people who had provoked the Ling family did not have a good life. Thus, I advise Lord to leave quickly before the experts of the Ling family come," the green-clothed young lady said. "Oh, thank you very much for telling me." After talking, Jian Wushuang did not have any response. The green-clothed young lady frowned and continued to talk. "From the looks of it, Lord seems to be an expert who came from another holy kingdom. Hence, you do not know how powerful the Ling family is. The Ling family itself has more than 20 real gods. Among them, there are a total of 5 eternal real gods. Moreover, they even have a chaotic real god. It's a chaotic real god who can totally become a king if he were placed in some normal holy kingdoms. With such a great force, Lord." "I understand." Jian Wushuang only nodded his head like before. Seeing that Jian Wushuang did not have any response, the green-clothed young lady shook her head and stopped advising him. Although the people within the pub were afraid of Jian Wushuang's abilities, they did not leave in a rush. Instead, they were waiting to watch the show that was about to occur. After all, not just anyone could kill the people of the Ling family. Moreover, the people who Jian Wushuang killed were a real god with 10 other top universe gods of the third heaven. Forgetting the universe gods, a real god was like a tower of strength to the Ling family. As expected, in no time, the experts of the Ling family who had gotten the news arrived. This time around, 20 experts from the Ling family had come. Among them, there was a total of 3 real gods, as well as 1 eternal real god. After they arrived, they saw the piled-up bodies of the experts of the Ling family which were unburied outside the pub, and they became furious at once. "Who is this person who dared to see my Ling family as nothing and kill my experts wantonly?" A loud and furious shout, which sounded like a lion roaring, resounded throughout the whole pub. The roaring voice then caused some cultivators with weak abilities among the many cultivators in the pub to have no choice but to cover their ears. As the frightening pressure spread, a red, long-robed and stalwart old man with scarlet hair walked over slowly under the escort of his group of people. The scarlet-haired old man was the eternal real god among the group of people, and he was also Ling Yan, an expert from the Ling family, who was known for his mighty reputation in the holy kingdom of real Wushu. Upon seeing the person who had come, many cultivators in the pub revealed a fearful expression, and all of them lowered their heads. In addition, some of them even stood up immediately and retreated to the end of the edge. Only Jian Wushuang continued to sit down on his seat normally like before. The scarlet-haired old man Ling Yan naturally noticed Jian Wushuang straight away. Ling Yan's expression turned grave. Jian Wushuang had intentionally hidden his aura, and normal cultivators were indeed unable to tell him apart. However, Ling Yan was an eternal teal god, and Jian Wushuang's stage 2 ultimate real god was equivalent to the level of an eternal real god. Since Jian Wushuang was of the level of Ling Yan naturally managed to tell him apart. So it's an eternal real god. No wonder he is able to kill Ling Tao and the rest of the people. However, the people of the Ling family are not people who can be killed by anyone. Even if you are an eternal real god, it's still not allowed. Ling Yan bellowed with rage. "I have already killed them. If you wish to avenge them, go ahead and be my guest. There's no need for any unnecessary words." Jian Wushuang's voice was ice-cold. "Haha, what great courage. Seems like I, Iron Lion Ling Yan, have not fought for a very long time, and the dynasty of real Wushu is about to forget about me. Since that's the case, I shall let everyone know my mighty name, Iron Lion, again." Long Yen was extremely furious and also laughing at the same time. His laughter contained frightening sound waves which spread across the area. "Little kid die!" With a furious roar, air currents appeared as Ling Yan had already launched an attack. This sound is really noisy. Jian Wushuang shook his head and extended that slender finger of his like before. With a finger, a similar shadow appeared. Previously, this shadow had killed Ling Tao and his group of people right away. At that moment, when Jian Wushuang unleashed it again, he seemed to have pierced the body of Ling Yan instantly. Ling Yan opened his eyes widely, and they were filled with shock. However, his body had already started to fall. An expert of the current generation, Iron Lion Ling Yan, who was famous in the holy kingdom of real Wushu, was killed instantly. Such a scene caused the people within the pub to be shocked again. As for the experts of the Ling family, they were extremely astonished as well. Go back and tell the head of the Ling family that I do not wish to cause trouble. However, if anyone dares to provoke me, I will not give them any mercy. I have already killed 2 waves of experts from the Ling family. If he has the guts to do so, he can continue to send the 3rd wave over. However, I can guarantee that he will regret it. Jian Wushuang's voice spread slowly as he drank his wine. The experts of the Ling family were shivering in fear, and they did not dare to stay. They then took Ling Yan's body along with them and headed back. Upon seeing that, Jian Wushuang shook his head. He had absolutely no intention of starting trouble, and it was the people of the Ling family who took the initiative to look for him. However, with his abilities, he could destroy countless powerhouses similar to the Ling family with just a flick of his finger. However, doing that would attract too much attention. At that time, He Xiu had not been found, and the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas had not appeared yet. As such, Jian Wushuang did not want to attract the attention of Sir God Lu Yin at such an early stage. As for the Ling family, he did not plan to continue massacring them. However, if the Ling family was not tactful, then he was not to blame. "Ha! Your abilities are strong." A hearty laugh could be heard abruptly. Jian Wushuang continued drinking like before, and everyone within the pub looked to the source of the voice. A green-robed, middle-aged man, who was carrying a green thunder saber on his back, had already entered the pub. The green-robed, middle-aged man looked scholarly. However, Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with a bit of arrogance. "I am Delay. May I know who you are?" The green-robed, middle-aged man walked to the front of Jian Wushuang and questioned modestly. When the surrounding people heard his name, they revealed shocked expressions. "It's Blood Thunder Saber Delay, the person whose abilities are only inferior to the king of Holy Kingdom of real Wushu, a chaotic real god." Gosh, those people were so shocked that they were stunned. However, Jian Wushuang was still normal like before, and he was not too concerned. "Delay, my name is Sword Emperor." Jian Wushuang's voice was dull. Chapter 1716. Team up? Chapter 1716. Team up? Sword Emperor? Delay was surprised. Not only was he famous in Holy Kingdom of real Wushu, but he also wandered in the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms. Hence, he was familiar with the experts in the 16 holy kingdoms, but he had never heard of Sword Emperor. Maybe he is an expert from outside of 16 holy kingdoms, Delay thought to himself. Then, he asked with a smile, "May I take a seat?" "Go ahead." Jian Wushuang didn't refuse. Delay sat down opposite Jian Wushuang. "You should be here for the 9 Taiqing ancient panacea in He Xiu's hands, right?" Yes, Jian Wushuang didn't deny it. It was useless to deny it. As he was already in Yuming Mountain, he definitely came for Taiqing ancient panacea. It's a pity that although Taiqing ancient panacea is impressive, it is useless for us real gods. Plus, no matter who gets the Taiqing ancient panaceas in the end, they have to give it to Mr. Lu Yin. What we could get at most are rewards from Mr. Lu Yin, Delay said. "Why is that?" Jian Wushuang asked in surprise. You didn't know? Delay looked at Jian Wushuang curiously and said, "No matter if it's Holy Kingdom of Zhenwu that we are in now, or the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms, they are under the control of Mr. Luin. Treasures like Taiqing ancient Panacea aren't something we real gods can have. Mr. Luin spread words long ago. Whoever passes him the Taiqing ancient Panaceas will receive a great reward from him." That's a reward from an almighty. There was passion in Delay's eyes. Taiqing ancient Panacea contained divine power, which was too enormous an amount to Sir God or Emperor God. It was extremely useful, but it would be a waste for a real god to consume a Taiqing ancient Panacea. Regardless of if it was expert in Holy Kingdom of real Wushu or experts attracted from the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms, even if they retrieved Taiqing ancient Panacea, they would only offer it to Sir God Luin in exchange for treasure. Even so, it was enough to make countless experts go crazy. Sir God Luin doesn't look for He Xiu himself, but used the experts from the 16 holy kingdoms under his control to look for him. He only spread a message, and there would be people sending him the Taiqing ancient Panacea. He is a very wise man. Jian Wushuang smiled. Do you know how many experts came to you, Ming Mountain, to fight for Taiqing ancient Panacea? Delay asked again. No idea. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Many. So many that it is beyond your imagination. Not only the experts in Holy Kingdom of real Wushu and the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms, but also many experts from the 16 holy kingdoms rushed over. If all of them are added up, the number of real God is unknown. Even the number of chaotic real God is many, Delay said, and there was astonishment in his eyes. There are so many experts. When He Xiu is found, there would definitely be a fierce fight. I reckon there should be a number of passing rate, even if they are chaotic real gods. Maybe Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but he couldn't be bothered. Real god, so what if there are many of them? Then Delay seemed to find that it was an opportunity, and he finally explained his purpose in coming. Although you are extremely strong, and you couldn't even be bothered with Ling family, you are all alone after all. If they were to start a fight, you would not have enough manpower. The Taiqing ancient Panacea wouldn't fall into your hands. Why not you team up with us? You. Jian Wushuang glanced at Delay. Besides you, who else? There are the other 4 experts from the 16 holy kingdoms. One of them is a chaotic real god. The other 2 are peak eternal real gods. With you, our team would be even stronger. By then, even if we were to come across the king of Holy Kingdom of real Wushu, we wouldn't have to be afraid. Delay smiled. I see. Jian Wushuang smiled, but then he shook his head. I'm sorry. I prefer to be solo. I'm not used to teaming up. Delay's face grew dim. You should reconsider this carefully. Although you are powerful, and you could even fight against a chaotic real god alone, there are many that could kill you during the fight later on. I don't know if there's anyone who could kill me, but I don't like to team up with others. Jian Wushuang's face was cold. Delay didn't bother to convince him. Well, good luck. Watching Delay leave, Jian Wushuang continued to drink by himself as he smiled faintly. Delay might be sincerely asking for him to team up, and what he had said was reasonable. If Jian Wushuang was only an ordinary chaotic real god, he would only stand a higher chance to get Taiqing ancient Panacea if he were to team up with Delay. However, Delay didn't know Jian Wushuang's true power. In the fight for Taiqing ancient Panacea, Jian Wushuang was only concerned about Sir God Lu Yun. As for the other real gods, he couldn't be bothered. With his power, did he need to team up with anyone? After he talked to Delay, Jian Wushuang thought highly of Sir God Lu Yin's method of doing things. If he was not mistaken, he reckoned that all the Ming Pubs in Ming Mountain should be operating under the command of Sir God Lu Yin. The information provided to the cultivators in Ming Mountain by the pub for the cultivators to look for He Xiu's whereabouts, while Sir God Yin himself sat on the fishing terrace. He controlled everything in his hands. Regardless of who got the Taiqing ancient panacea in the end, they would send it to him. The only thing that he needed to do was pay some rewards. If the fight for Taiqing ancient panacea was really just among a bunch of ordinary real god, even the top chaotic real god couldn't run from Sir God Yin's control. It was a pity that Sir God Yin definitely didn't think that Jian Wushuang would come by. The rest of the time, Jian Wushuang continued to stay in the pub as he waited in silence. He wasn't interested in looking for He Xiu's whereabouts over hill and dale like the other cultivators. He knew that there were so many people who couldn't find He Xiu over 10 years. He didn't think he would be so lucky to find He Xiu all by himself. Plus, once He Xiu was found, unless the person was killed, there would be a slight bit of news leaked, and Ming Pub would announce it to the public. Then, Jian Wushuang could also instantly know his location and head over to find him, which would be much easier. As for Ling family, when they find out Jian Wushuang had killed Ling Yan, the higher-ups in Ling family were pissed off, but they also knew that Jian Wushuang was an expert who likely could be compared favorably with a chaotic real god. Plus, their main focus was to look for He Xiu. They wouldn't come to make trouble with Jian Wushuang in the near future. Chapter 1717. He Xiu shows himself. Chapter 1717. He Xiu shows himself. In a flash, another 8 years passed. From the time that He Xiu had escaped into the Ming Mountain to the present, more than 20 years had passed. With over 20 years of time, as well as so many experts searching crazily in the Ming Mountain, He Xiu was still not found. Hence, quite a number of people could not help but wonder if He Xiu was still inside the Ming Mountain. Or perhaps someone had already found He Xiu, killed him, snatched the Taiqing ancient panaceas away, and escaped stealthily after that. Although there were some suspicions, many experts still did not give up. In a gorge of the Ming Mountain, there were many buildings. This place was a lair of a big group of bandits. Within a secret room, 10 figures were gathered together, and the person sitting at the highest point was a hunchbacked old man with an extremely evil aura. The hunchbacked old man had gloomy eyes. However, his expression was a bit pale. During this period of time, Ming Mountain has not been very peaceful, and even our men feel a bit restless. The hunchbacked old man slammed his supporting chair, and his indifferent voice resounded within the secret room. After that, he looked at a crafty-looking, black-haired youth. "Shuehe, I have gotten you to observe the movements of second brother and third brother closely. How has it been?" Long Yi, for this period of time, the second leader and third leader have been having secret conversions frequently, and they are extremely secretive. Our people are totally unable to mix in with them, and we have no idea what they are discussing. However, from their movements, they are probably preparing to take action, the black-haired youth answered. "Humph, they are really preparing to rebel." The hunchbacked old man's eyes were filled with fury, and his aura roused, causing the whole secret room to be filled with a cold frost. The second leader and third leader have been restless for many days. But on normal days, due to your abilities, they did not dare to act recklessly. However, this time around, as you are injured, they found an opportunity, the black-haired youth said. "Two thankless wretches. If I had known that this would happen, I would have killed the both of them back then." The hunchbacked old man bellowed loudly, and he was filled with hatred. He was an extremely powerful real god who stood at the top of the void real gods, and on normal days, he stood by his words within the group of bandits. Even if the two leaders under him were to have some small motives with him suppressing them, They did not do anything that was out of the ordinary. Hence, he did not take action against the both of them. However, this time around, many experts were looking for traces of He Xiu in the Yuming Mountain. Hence, bandits like them were implicated. Not long ago, some experts came to their territory. As those few experts wanted to search the Qian Kuan rings of all the universe gods under him, they ended up in a conflict with them, and a big fight broke out as a result. Although those few experts were repelled in the end, he was seriously injured, and to date, he had not even recovered 50% of his abilities. Hence, this allowed the two leaders under him to find an opportunity. The hunchbacked old man was discussing with everyone how to deal with the two leaders. However, all of a sudden, the big door of the secret room was kicked open. After that, a big group of people came in, and the people right in front of them were the two leaders. Second brother and third brother, both of you are really going to rebel. The hunchbacked old man smote the table and stood up in anger. Ha ha! We have been unable to stand an old bastard like you since long ago. Since we have an opportunity this time around, how can we let it go? Since everyone happens to be here, we shall kill of you together. With an order from the two leaders, many of the bandits under them charged in immediately. A great battle burst forth instantly. On the battlefield, the hunchbacked old man's side was definitely at a disadvantage, and it was very one-sided. Under the siege of the two leaders, the hunchbacked old man himself was also in imminent danger. Thus, the people under him were probably in a worse condition. Swoosh! A strange figure was shuffling back and forth in the battlefield. This person was the crafty-looking black-haired youth known as He. Although he looked ugly, his abilities were outstanding. The black knife that he held in one of his hands was either swung from time to time or swung cunningly with an extremely fast speed, and it swept past the bodies of many universe gods. After just a short amount of time, He had already killed 6 universe gods. Little kid, your abilities are not too bad. No wonder you have such a high position after joining for only 10 years. However, it's a pity that you have followed the wrong person. Brothers, kill him! After a purple-clothed man bellowed loudly, a total of 10 bandits besieged He immediately. Those bandits were all universe gods, and there was a total of 5 universe gods of the third heaven among them. With all of them teaming up and besieging he could only retreat again and again in defeat. No, I won't be able to last any longer. His eyes were cold, and he was looking at the situation around him. Those bandits had surrounded him from all sides, and he could not find any opportunity to escape unless he could kill all of them. However, with that, I have no choice. All of a sudden, His eyes turned cold, and his aura changed greatly in an instant. Originally, he had looked crafty and wretched. However, at that moment, it was just like the hell-killing gods. All of a sudden, a crimson sword swept past the area, and many rays of crimson light appeared in the void repeatedly. The rays of crimson light were like crimson lotuses which had blossomed. The sad, beautiful scenery then attracted the attention of many universe gods around the area. Swish, 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 swish. The sounds of the cutting edge of a sword piercing through bodies could be heard repeatedly. In an instant, the throats of the 10 bandits who had besieged he were pierced, and their lives dissipated. Such a scene then caused those surrounding bandits who were fighting to be extremely shocked. How is this possible? He killed 10 universe gods, including 5 universe gods of the third heaven, with one stroke. This he is actually so strong? No, that's wrong. He has always used a black knife as his weapon. When did it change into a sword? Moreover, his fighting capabilities are so strong. The surrounding people were so astonished that they were stunned. Even the hunchbacked old man, Long Yi, who was fighting as well as the two leaders, looked over. This is Long Yi opened his eyes wide. They were not idiots. He has obviously been hiding his abilities intentionally. Moreover, he had even hidden the weapon that he used. The most important thing was that even his own aura had changed completely. This was a group of bandits, and there was absolutely no need to hide anything. However, He had hidden himself so deeply by thinking of the crimson sword that he used as well as when he joined the group of bandits. He Xiu. He is He Xiu. Long Yi was the first person to roar. He Xiu. The two leaders also cried out in alarm. At the next moment, the three people who were originally fighting stopped, and three pairs of eyes, which were burning with excitement, looked at He. It was not fake that they were having an internal fight for the sake of their own benefit. However, these benefits were considered nothing compared to the Taiqing ancient panaceas that He Xiu possessed. Kill him. Capture him. Many of the bandits who were originally fighting madly buried the hatchet instantly and headed toward He. Run. He also did not hesitate in the slightest, and he started to run away crazily at once. While running, he no longer concealed any of his abilities. Chapter 17:18. Mad He Xiu. Chapter 17:18. Mad He Xiu. Ming Pub was still busy and crowded. Jian Wushuang sat in the corner of the pub and drank on his own. No one dared to disturb him. Just then, the maiden dressed in the green at the counter shouted, "Everyone, I just received the latest update. You might be interested." The pub was suddenly noisy, and everyone went to the counter to pay 100,000 god gems in exchange for the update. As for Jian Wushuang, he didn't move, but the maiden in green took the initiative to pass him the message without taking a single cent. Jian Wushuang browsed through the update carefully. He has disguised himself with a sneaky look and concealed his power. He hid his weapon and hid in a thief lair. As there was an internal fight, he displayed his true power and killed over 10 universe gods with one stroke, including 5 universe gods in the third heaven. Jian Wushuang was surprised. According to the information, he was 80 to 90% certain that it was He Xiu. He. His name had the word Shui as well. Plus, he used a sword, and he is powerful. There were 3 real gods among the thieves, but he escaped. Jian Wushuang smiled, but didn't hesitate, and plunged in the direction of He. Then, as the news spread in Yuming Mountain, countless experts in Yuming Mountain immediately departed too. Yuming Mountain in the sunny void. Swoosh! A flowing light pierced at a shocking speed while it was followed by densely dotted rainbow lights that were swift in speed too. He Xiu, you can't run away. Give us Taiqing ancient panacea. Otherwise, you have to die. There was a roar followed by another, and the sound shook the earth. Besides the people chasing behind, there were a large number of experts besieging He Xiu from all directions. Among the experts, there were real gods, even eternal real gods and chaotic real gods. He was only a universe god. Under such circumstances, it could be said that he was inescapable. My divine power is almost exhausted. I can't escape. He Xiu's face was pale, and he felt helpless. It wasn't that he had never thought of consuming Taiqing ancient panacea. It could let his divine power recover quickly. However, looking at the situation before his eyes, there wasn't any use if he were to recover his divine power. As I can't escape, let's bet. There was an unprecedented madness in He Xiu's eyes. Swoosh! He who was originally running away suddenly stopped in the air. Ha! You're going to stop running away. Offer no resistance. The experts hemming him in from all directions had fire churning in their eyes. The 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. Whoever got them would receive a bounty reward from Sir God Lu Yin. He was an almighty. Any random reward that was given by an almighty was enough for real gods that had no background to go crazy. Just as the experts were getting closer to He Xiu to kill him and take away the Taiqing ancient panaceas. Don't come any closer. Otherwise, I will break them all into pieces. None of you will get them. A low bellow was heard from He Xiu. He extended his hand and gripped a green jade bottle tightly in his hand. He squeezed, and the jade bottle, made of an unknown material, suddenly cracked a little. The sight made the surrounding experts' faces change, and all of them stopped. There were many experts among them. There were even a few chaotic real god. They really could kill He Xiu easily. However, if He Xiu were to break the jade bottle into pieces before he died and shatter all the Taiqing ancient panaceas in it, their efforts would all go to waste. Not only would their efforts go to waste, but Sir God Lu Yin would also be pissed too, right? He Xiu, why are you still struggling now? There was a sudden cold humph that spread across heaven and earth. Everyone looked at the source, and they saw 6 figures gathered there. Among the 6 of them, there were 2 chaotic real gods, and the other 4 were the top eternal real gods. The leader was recognized in the first instant. It's Delay. It's him. The surrounding experts looked on in concern. Delay was not only famous in Holy Kingdom of Real God, but he was also famous in the 16 Holy Kingdoms, and he was very powerful. On top of that, he wasn't alone, but there were many experts behind him. Ha! Even a beast would know what is called a desperate fight, let alone humans. Although I, He Xiu, am only a universe god, if I could be chased after by so many experts from the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms, I didn't live in vain. He Xiu laughed. There was madness in his laughter. However, even if I die, I will not let you gain a petty advantage. Don't all you want the Taiqing ancient panaceas? I will not give to you. I can be burnt to death with the Taiqing ancient panaceas. Everyone's faces grew grave when they heard what He Xiu said. Suddenly, go away! He Xiu suddenly roared, and he clenched his right hand. The jade bottle that was in it cracked. Virum! A ghostly figure substantiated about 100 meters away from He Xiu. The ghostly figure was a cold-looking woman. Young man, you are only a universe god, but you're quite quick to respond. Huh? The woman glanced at He Xiu with a tinge of discontent. She was good at assassination. She had originally intended to get closer to He Xiu, kill him, and take away the Taiqing ancient panaceas, but she had never expected He Xiu to notice her. You want to assassinate me? He Xiu's gaze grew cold. He looked around with soaring, murderous intention. I'll give you a choice now. Either kill this person who tried to surprise attack me, or I will squash the Taiqing ancient panaceas. What? The cold-looking woman who surprise attacked He Xiu was shocked. He noticed the surrounding murderous gazes fixed upon her. For Taiqing ancient panacea, you have to die. Delay turned into lightning and struck. Run! The cold-looking woman realized that she had become the public target, and she couldn't be bothered with the Taiqing ancient panaceas. She instantly started running away. However, not long after she started running, a huge hand descended from the sky. The huge hand covered the cold-looking woman and pinched the cold-looking woman like she was an ant. The huge hand exerted strength and crushed her into pieces before everyone, including He Xiu. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. A large crowd plunged over. Their leader was a white-robed man. The white-robed man gave out gentle aura and made one feel as though they were showering in sunlight. The one who launched an attack at the cold-looking woman was this person. Chapter 17:19, The Only Condition. Chapter 17:19, The Only Condition. It's the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. And the person beside him is Ling Tianxiao, the head of the Ling family. The king has actually come himself. Sounds of shock could be heard from the scene at once. Among the many experts present, although quite a number of them came from the 16 surrounding holy kingdoms, the Yu Ming mountain was in the holy kingdom of Real Wushu after all. Hence, in the Yu Ming mountain, the king of holy kingdom of Real Wushu was definitely the overlord, and the abilities that he possessed were the most powerful. Delay, I didn't think that you would come as well. The king of the holy kingdom of Real Wushu had a vast amount of aura, which was like a rising sun illuminating the universe. Upon seeing the king of holy kingdom of Real Wushu, Delay's expression turned grave. The person who he feared the most in the fight for the Taiqing ancient Panaceas this time around was the king of holy kingdom of Real Wushu. As such, he did whatever he could to rope people over to his side previously, so that he could obtain the power required to compete with the king of holy kingdom of Real Wushu. However, looking at it then, there was still quite a bit of a gap between them. Not mentioning the others, just looking at the side of the king of holy kingdom of Real Wushu itself, apart from the king, there were 2 other chaotic real gods, and the total number of chaotic real gods amounted to 3. As for eternal real gods, there were more than 10. Hence, this was something that was incomparable to him. After sweeping his eyes past Delay, the king of holy kingdom of Real Wushu felt disdainful. After that, his eyes looked in the direction He Xiu. He Xiu, do you know the crime that you have committed? The king of holy kingdom of Real Wushu's voice turned cold, and it was filled with strictness. At the same time, his chaotic, real god-level pressure was unleashed onto He Xiu. He Xiu felt as though his body was about to be crushed completely. However, he still hung on with all his might. At the same time, his right hand exerted some force, and the jade bottle broke open completely, revealing the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas, which were held by He Xiu in his hands. You wish to force me? He Xiu's eyes were completely red, and he gave a shrill roar. The king of holy kingdom of Real Wushu's expression turned grave, and the pressure that he unleashed dissipated at once. It was obvious that he was also worried that He Xiu would destroy the Taiqing ancient panaceas in his fit of anger. He Xiu, you must be certain about your own identity. The Taiqing ancient panaceas are not something that a universe god like you can have. Even if it were your He family, they would not have the right to do so. Your father, as well as many experts of your He family, should have served as a lesson for you. If you were to hand the Taiqing ancient panaceas over obediently now, I would forgive you and spare your life. If not, you will end up the same way as your father. The king of holy kingdom of Real Wushu shouted. Haha, what a joke! For so many years in the holy kingdom of Real, my He family has been very loyal to you, and we have done many things for you. But what happened in the end? Just like before, you continued to acquiesce yourself with the Ling family to bully us and take the property of my He family. Moreover, you even had the intention of supporting the Ling family to destroy my He family. He Xiu's voice was fierce and ear-piercing. This time around, I admit that my He family is in the wrong. However, we did it to protect ourselves. My father merely wished to use the Taiqing ancient panaceas to carve out a new path for the He family, if not because of the fact that we would encounter a great disaster soon. Why would my He family dare to hide the Taiqing ancient panaceas secretly? As for you, because of this matter, you disregarded many years of the He family's cordiality and exterminated the He family completely. King of holy kingdom of Real Wushu, you are really ruthless. Humph, since your He family dares to betray me, You must be ready to die 10,000 times. The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu's voice was icy cold. He Xiu, I will give you one last chance. Will you hand over the Taiqing ancient panaceas or not? Haha, I refuse to hand them over. What can you do to me? At most, the Taiqing ancient panaceas will be destroyed with my death. He Xiu laughed loudly, and he was filled with madness. He had been prepared to risk everything since a long time ago. Such a scene then caused the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu's expression to turn ugly. He did not care about He Xiu's abilities. However, since the Taiqing ancient panaceas were currently with He Xiu, if He Xiu were to really destroy everything, it would be extremely troublesome. Not mentioning the fact that he would not receive Sir God Lu Yin's reward. Sir God Lu Yin might even put the blame on him. He Xiu. A voice could be heard, and it came from Delay. He also had a grave expression. In such a situation, you have absolutely no chance of escaping. Tell us bluntly, what must we do to get you to hand over the Taiqing ancient panaceas? The people present could tell that since He Xiu did not destroy the Taiqing ancient panaceas immediately, he definitely wanted to discuss some terms and conditions. Ha! My condition is simple, and I only have one. He Xiu laughed coldly, and his eyes turned scarlet like the eyes of a wild beast, and he looked in the direction of the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. I will give these 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas to the person who kills the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, as well as Ling Tianxiao, who is behind him. As soon as his words left his mouth, the whole void became deathly silent at once. Many experts' eyes were also filled with astonishment. Kill the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Kill Ling Tianxiao. Not mentioning the fact that both of them were chaotic real gods, the most important thing was that they were in the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, which was the territory of the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Thus, how much power did the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu possess? Although there were many experts present, quite a number of them were from the 16 other holy kingdoms. Hence, these experts did not have the slightest bit of courage to fight with the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. After all, if the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu were not killed, they would be the ones to die, as there would be absolutely no way for them to leave the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. As for the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, when he saw the expressions of the surrounding experts, he laughed apathetically, and his eyes became filled with contempt. Delay, are you going to attack me? The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu shot a glance at Delay. At the scene, the only person who would dare to fight him was probably Delay alone. Delay's expression was a bit ugly. If it were just killing Ling Tianxiao alone, it would still be all right. However, killing the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Delay shook his head. He also did not have the courage to fight with the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu in the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, as it was no different from courting death. He Xiu, you have seen it as well. Even if I were to stand here for people to kill me, which person present would dare to attack me? The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu sneered. Changed to a more realistic condition, Delay also looked over. No, I only have this condition. I will only give all the Taiqing ancient panaceas to the person who manages to do it. If no one is able to do it, the Taiqing ancient panaceas will be destroyed along with my death. He Xiu roared, I will count to 3. After counting to 3, if no one takes action, I shall turn the Taiqing ancient panaceas into a waste product. 1. Upon hearing He Xiu counting, the expressions of the people present turned grave. Quite a number of people looked at the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. However, they still shook their heads. He Xiu, do you really wish to die? The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu was filled with murderous intent. 2. He Xiu's eyes turned completely red. He had disregarded his life a long time ago. 3. He Xiu blurted out a 3 slowly while holding back. As soon as his words came out of his mouth, his face filled with madness, and he was about to destroy all the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas in his hands. Wait! All of a sudden, a cry could be heard. The voice was low, and it reverberated across the whole universe like a clap of thunder. At the same time, it struck the mind of He Xiu, causing his breathing to stop temporarily, and his hands to stop what they were doing. Everyone then looked over. The person who they saw was a crimson-robed young man who carried a sword on his back, and he was walking over slowly. Chapter 17:20, I promise you. Chapter 17:20, I promise you. In a crimson robe and carrying a sword on his back. The attire was really similar to He Xiu back when he was wandering. The incoming person was Jian Wushuang. He had arrived in the void long ago, but he didn't reveal himself. He intended to wait until the fights start to grab the Taiqing ancient panaceas during the chaos, then leave immediately. However, he had never expected that the fight couldn't take place. He Xiu was very careful, smart, and also mad. With him having the idea to burn himself to death together with the elixirs, no one knew what to do with him. He had no choice, and he could only come forward. Otherwise, the Taiqing ancient panaceas would be destroyed. Before the experts' gazes, Jian Wushuang appeared in the void next to He Xiu. You said earlier that whoever killed the king of Holy King of Real Wushu and the head of Ling family, Ling Tianxiao, for you, you'll give the Taiqing ancient panaceas to? Jian Wushuang looked at He Xiu with a cold look. Yes, He Xiu nodded heavily, but the hatred in his eyes didn't diminish. Besides that, do you have any other conditions? Jian Wushuang continued to ask. This He Xiu was stunned and creased his eyebrows as he said, If possible, bring me away from here alive, away from Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Jian Wushuang lifted the corner of his lips. He knew that although He Xiu was prepared to burn himself to death with the elixirs, he didn't really want to die. He was truly a god's favored one. Unless he had no choice, why would he be willing to die like that? Your conditions, I promise you, Jian Wushuang said, and turned around to look at the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. He then walked slowly. As Jian Wushuang walked to the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, every expert's face grew awkward. Emperor Sword, Delay creased his eyebrows. He knew Jian Wushuang. He had wanted to invite Jian Wushuang to join his team previously to fight against the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. It was a pity that Jian Wushuang had rejected him. Then, he had thought Jian Wushuang was arrogant. From the looks of him, then, he wasn't arrogant, simply insane. There was no one who dared to take action against the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, but he had agreed to He Xiu's conditions to kill the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. You have guts. You killed Elder Ling Yan from Ling family and dared to appear before me. There was a loud roar, and the one who spoke was the head of Ling family, Ling Tianxiao. Then his hair was fluttering in the air, and his eyes were burning with rage. However, Jian Wushuang didn't bother to look at the head of Ling family, and his gaze was fixed upon the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. King of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, you heard He Xiu's conditions. In order to get the Taiqing ancient panaceas, I'm sorry, Jian Wushuang's cold voice reverberated. Ha! There's really someone unafraid of death. The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu looked on in disdain. You're only an eternal, real god. Just how idiotic can you be? Everyone at the scene looked at Jian Wushuang as though he was an idiot. Among them, there were people who could tell Jian Wushuang was only an eternal, real god. How could an eternal, real god be so outrageously arrogant? King of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, let me take care of this person, Ling Tianxiao said in a deep voice. He killed the experts from Ling family. I happen to want to take revenge. I never thought that he would take the initiative to meet me. All right then. You can take care of him. The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu smiled coldly. He couldn't be bothered to fight against an eternal real god. Ling Tianxiao smirked coldly as he spread his fierce aura and slowly walked forward. Jian Wushuang shook his head and smiled at the sight. Save the trouble. I can take care of you in one go. Then Jian Wushuang extended his hand and pointed in the direction which the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu and Ling Tianxiao were in with his right index finger. Hung, the sky and earth shattered. An ancient, huge finger that gave out boundless light appeared from nowhere. The huge finger that could destroy heaven and earth appeared, and the surrounding void shattered instantly. The entire universe was shaking madly. Ling Tianxiao was originally fueled with murderous intention, but he was dumbfounded the moment he saw the huge finger. The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu behind him was staring with his eyes wide open too. He was terrified, and he wanted to run away, but he couldn't escape in time. Rumble! The huge finger first hit Ling Tianxiao, then continued to charge forward. It pressed past the crowd, then the universe calmed down. Then ancient huge finger dispersed entirely. Just as the finger pressed past the void, there wasn't any figure left, but only flesh that had yet to be crushed into pieces. Then there was a strong blood smell that spread. Everyone at the scene was dumbfounded by the sight. Ling Tianxiao and the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu died. Delay stared with his eyes wide open while he gasped a breath of cold air. Dead. Yes, after one finger point. Not only did he kill Ling Tianxiao right at the front, but he also killed the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu behind him. He also killed the bunch of real gods that the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu that brought along with him. The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu had brought a total of 3 chaotic real gods and a dozen of eternal real gods. After the finger point, all of them had vanished into thin air. Jian Wushuang did all that, and he still looked like he couldn't be bothered. He took the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu and the other's Qian Kuan ring. Then his figure turned illusionary, and he came before He Xiu. He Xiu gulped. He looked at the person before him in astonishment. Then there was an unprecedented thrill in his eyes. Dead. The bastard is finally dead. Ling Tianxiao, he's dead as well. They are all dead. The revenge for He family is taken. He Xiu roared, and there was madness in his voice. He had already been hopeless at first. He had had no way out, so he had wanted to bet with the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. He wanted to take revenge. As for his life, he couldn't be bothered anymore. However, he also knew that it was too difficult to kill the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu within his own holy kingdom. He had only had a little hope, but in the end, it had really succeeded. There was really someone who had killed the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu and Ling Tianxiao before him. The people who you want to kill, I have already killed them for you. Give me the Taiqing ancient panaceas. Jian Wushuang extended his hand, and there was a certain dignity in his eyes. He Xiu's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at Jian Wushuang with admiration and gratitude. He didn't hesitate, and passed Jian Wushuang the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas that he had been holding tightly in his hand. You have a clear view of things, Jian Wushuang smiled. He put the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas into his Qian Kuan ring before everyone. If Jian Wushuang wanted to, he could totally kill He Xiu as well. The real gods couldn't do anything about He Xiu and only be threatened by him. However, Jian Wushuang had only needed a simple soul attack to kill He Xiu in silence. He wouldn't even have had the time to shatter the Taiqing ancient panaceas. It was just that Jian Wushuang didn't do that. Chapter 1721, An Almighty's Anger. Chapter 1721, An Almighty's Anger. Next, I will bring you out of the holy kingdom of real Wushu. Don't resist. As Jian Wushuang looked at He Xiu, who was in front of him, with a thought, his blood mountain sword came out of the scabbard and changed into a lofty mountain instantly. The lofty mountain was filled with special secret patterns, and they covered He Xiu straight away. He Xiu remained silent. He did not resist, and allowed Jian Wushuang to put him in the blood mountain sword. After finishing that, Jian Wushuang's eyes looked around the surroundings. Around him, there were countless experts from 16 other holy kingdoms. Among them there were unordinary real gods, as well as chaotic real gods. However, when those experts sensed Jian Wushuang's gaze, all of them revealed a fearful expression. Although they knew that the Taiqing ancient panaceas had already fallen into Jian Wushuang's hands, no one dared to harbor any greedy thoughts. What a joke! Previously, the king of Holy Kingdom of real Wushu himself had already made them so fearful that all of them did not dare to attack. As for Jian Wushuang, who stood in front of them, he was a super existence who had killed the king of Holy Kingdom of real Wushu with just a swing of his hands. Seems like this is it. All of a sudden, a deep voice could be heard. After that, a vast amount of dense fog started to gather at the center of the void, and an aquiline-nosed old man was revealed in the end. When the old man appeared, he did not release any aura. However, he still caused many real gods who were present to shiver in fear. Lord Luin! Greetings to Lord Luin! Many real god experts present greeted the approaching person in succession. All of them were filled with respect and admiration. Sir God Luin was the real ruler of the 16 surrounding holy kingdoms, as well as the holy kingdom of real Wushu. Although the king of Holy Kingdom of real Wushu was the leader of the Holy Kingdom of real Wushu on the surface, in actual fact, with just a word from Sir God Lu Xian, he would give up his position of king without hesitation. For the fight this time around, even though many experts from the 16 holy kingdoms had participated in it, all of them knew that no matter who obtained the Taiqing ancient panaceas, in the end, they would be presented to Sir God Luin. Sir God Luin swept his eyes past everyone around him, and his bleary eyes locked onto Jian Wushuang. You are called Sword Emperor, right? Your abilities are not too bad. My Qian Kuan ring has 1,000 doctrine gems and some other treasures. They shall be considered your reward. Sir God Luin took out a Qian Kuan ring and tossed it toward Jian Wushuang. Also, since the king of Holy Kingdom of real Wushu has already died, a holy kingdom cannot be missing a king. If you are willing to, you can become the king of this holy kingdom right away. Upon hearing Sir God Luin's words, many experts present were shocked. That's Lord Luin's reward. A total of 1,000 doctrine gems, as well as many treasures. In addition, he can also become the king of Holy Kingdom of real Wushu straight away. Oh my gosh! Lord Luin is indeed an almighty, as he is really generous. However, it's a pity that the rewards have been obtained by the Sword Emperor. Countless gazes gathered on Jian Wushuang, and they were filled with envy. They were indeed envious of Jian Wushuang. From their point of view, Sir God Luin's reward was too great. For example, even Di Lei's eyes were looking at Jian Wushuang and filled with enviousness. However, there was nothing that he could do. This reward was given to Jian Wushuang by Sir God Luin, and none of them had the right to get it. However, upon seeing the Qian Kuan ring that Sir God Luin had tossed over, Jian Wushuang did not extend his hand to catch it. He then glanced at Sir God Lu Yin and laughed indifferently. I'm sorry. I'm not interested in your reward. The only thing that I am interested in is the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. The void, which was originally lively, became quiet instantly. At that moment, the countless gazes, which were originally filled with envy, filled with astonishment. He did not want the reward. He was only interested in the Taiqing ancient panaceas. What is he trying to do? Delay opened his eyes wide. Could it be that his ultimate objective of getting the Taiqing ancient panaceas is not to get the reward of Lord Lu Yin? Sir God Lu Yin's eyes turned grave, and he shot a glance at Jian Wushuang. Little kid, do you know what you are saying? Of course I know. I said that I am only interested in the Taiqing ancient panaceas. Since they have already landed in my hands, I will not give them away again. Hence, I will naturally not give them to you. In addition, there is another point. In the eternal chaotic world, there are not many people who have the right to call me little kid. At the very least, you, Sir God Lu Yin, do not have the right to do so. Jian Wushuang sneered. What a joke. At that time, he possessed the fighting capabilities of a Sir God, and he was at the same level as Sir God Lu Yin. Since their abilities were similar, they should be talking on equal grounds. Little kid, that was the way an elder would address a junior, or the way a strong person would address a weak person. What great courage! Within the 16 holy kingdoms, you are the first person who dares to provoke me. Sir God Lu Yin was not furious. However, murderous intent flashed in his eyes, which were looking at Jian Wushuang. Boom! The universe shook. The void in front of Sir God Lu Yin changed into waves that looked like a sea of divine power immediately and headed toward Jian Wushuang. In the places that the waves passed by, the voids were all torn into pieces. Such a scene caused many experts present to reveal a fearful expression. All of them knew that Sir God Lu Yin had attacked, and Almighty was furious. As for his way of attacking, he did not use any techniques. He merely unleashed a sea of divine power with a thought. However, as the sea of divine power could destroy everything in the universe, the power that it contained caused everyone present to feel hopeless. An almighty. These are the abilities of an almighty. Some people present could not help but gasp in admiration and roar furiously. Delay also clenched both his fists tightly, and his eyes were filled with shock. To them, an almighty was a legendary existence, as well as an omnipotent god. There was only one kind of ending for someone who offended an almighty, and that was death. The Sword Emperor was finished. However, upon seeing the sea of divine power heading over to him, Jian Wushuang placed both his hands behind his hand and did not move in the slightest. Moreover, he also wore an indifferent smile. Break. He merely uttered a word softly. However, it was like a clap of thunder that resounded across the whole universe. The sea of divine power which was heading over seemed to be cut open by a sharp cutting edge, and it was split into 2 halves. In addition, the infinite amount of divine power of the sea of divine power also spread in all directions madly. However, none of it spread to Jian Wushuang. Many experts around the area were extremely shocked. It was an attack by Sir God Lu Yin. However, in the end, Jian Wushuang did not make any movements like before, and he dispersed the attack by merely uttering a word softly. What kind of ability was that? Sir God Lu Yin's eyes squinted, and his expression turned grave. Even though you are merely an eternal god, your divine power is not inferior to mine. If my guess is not wrong, you should be Jian Wushuang. Sir God Lu Yin stared at Jian Wushuang, and his voice could be heard. Sir God Lu Yin, you took so long to recognize me. Your judgment is not really good. Jian Wushuang laughed. Chapter 1722, Jian Wushuang and Sir God Ling. Chapter 1722, Jian Wushuang and Sir God Ling. It's really you, Sir God Luyin's face grew dim. He was also a member of Sanctuary Alliance, and he had also heard of Jian Wushuang, but he only knew Jian Wushuang's name and some of his deeds. He had no idea how Jian Wushuang dressed. After all, he shared no relationship with lineage of Star, and he never thought to have dealings with Jian Wushuang. At the beginning, when he saw Jian Wushuang, he didn't recognize Jian Wushuang. But the moment he saw the power that Jian Wushuang displayed, an eternal real god who could withstand his attack so easily, he reckoned that there was only Jian Wushuang alone who could do that in eternal chaotic world. When the experts from the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms heard Jian Wushuang's name, everyone was confused. Then they quickly realized Jian Wushuang's identity. Jian Wushuang, the first place on Real God ranking list, Jian Wushuang. Oh my goodness, it's him. First place on Real God ranking list. Along with cries of astonishment, everyone finally understood why Jian Wushuang had had the guts to provoke Sir God Ling. The difference between a real god and an almighty was ridiculously vast. In eternal chaotic world, there wouldn't be more than 3 real gods who could be qualified to challenge an almighty. However, Jian Wushuang definitely had the capability to. Jian Wushuang, I should have never offended you, nor should I have offended lineage of Star, right? Sir God Ling looked coldly at Jian Wushuang. You didn't, but I really have to get the Taiqing ancient panaceas. So, I'm sorry. Jian Wushuang smiled. If so, there's nothing much to say. I heard long ago that you are known as the top genius in eternal chaotic world and also an inverse cultivator. You just became an eternal chaotic real god, and you could fight against a Sir God. I'd like to see it in person today. Sir God Luyin's face grew cold. What tricks do you have? Go ahead and perform them. Jian Wushuang said with confidence. Excuse my immodesty. Sir God Luyin's gaze grew sharp. Hung. The void quivered, and a boundless divine power suddenly flowed out. It then formed huge gale dragons in front of Sir God Ling. Every single gale dragon was 100 zhang long. There were more than 100 of gale dragons of that size that formed instantly and roared simultaneously. Then they pounded at Jian Wushuang among the fierce winds. Jian Wushuang could only feel a terrifying storm pressing at him, and he immediately withdrew Blood Mountain Sword. Virum! There was a soaring sword in tension that seemed to be tearing everything apart. Jian Wushuang stood there facing the wine, but the surrounding people saw his figure vanish into thin air like a sharp sword that was going to pierce the sky. He raised Blood Mountain Sword high in the sky, and there were shrill crimson sword shadows that appeared in the void instantly. Every single crimson sword shadow could destroy heaven and earth, and was sufficient to strike fear in the hearts of the surrounding real gods, including those chaotic real gods. In an instant, there were 61 crimson sword shadows that carried such power which appeared in the air. The 61 crimson sword shadows appeared, and were immediately superposed onto one another. 10,000 waves break. Jian Wushuang's voice shook the earth, and he slashed Blood Mountain Sword downwards. The brand new sword shadow made of the 61 crimson sword shadows suddenly swung out. The sword shadow soared and instantly tore the gale dragons that were charging towards him into pieces. Then, in a short time, it swept out the gale dragon. There were some that were cut across from the middle and broke apart too. The boundless divine power spread in all directions, but suddenly there was a hole in the middle of the divine power. A figure stepped out from the opening. He was Sir God Ling. There was murderous intention in his eyes. His right hand became a claw, and he pounded at Jian Wushuang to claw the void. The sharp claw magnified, and it was like a dragon's claw at an unbelievable speed. The claw caught Jian Wushuang, and Jian Wushuang's body instantly shattered into pieces. Sir God Lu Yi wasn't surprised at the sight, but he looked solemn. The one he clawed at was only a shadow. Virum! Virum! There were two ear-piercing noises. Although the sound wasn't loud, Sir God Lu Yi heard it clearly. Then there were two rays of golden light next to him as well. The two rays of golden light were brilliant and extremely fast in speed. Sir God Lu Yi waved, and there were two flowing lights that swept out too. Dang! Dang! There was a loud clash, and the two golden lights were shaken off. However, Sir God Lu Yi took a few steps back before he steadied himself too. Then there were two flywheels that appeared in his hand. One of them was white, and the other one was black. They gave out a unique aura, which was quite creepy. In the void before Sir God Lu Yi, Jian Wushuang stood there with one hand holding his sword. In front of him, the two Hongjun golden swords were each on both sides of his body. Those are the golden swords that you used to injure Sir God Qianlan. Sir God Lu Yi glanced at the two Hongjun golden sword, and his gaze was cold. They are quite powerful, but I wonder how are they against my life and death flywheels. Why not give it a try? Then, you'll know? Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Because he had known that he would run into Sir God Lu Yi, he had already read through some information about Sir God Lu Yi on his way there. He knew that Sir God Lu Yi was one of the top Sir Gods. Compared to Sir God Qianlan that he had fought with previously, he was much stronger, and Sir God Lu Yi was best with his life and death flywheels. The two flywheels represented life and death each, and displayed Sir God Lu Yi's comprehension of life and death doctrine flawlessly. Life and death doctrine, one of the nine heaven god doctrine, focused on being creepy. Die! Jian Wushuang bellowed, and the two Hongjun golden swords that were floating in the air suddenly shook and turned into two resplendent golden lights. They burst out and left two golden straight lines in the void. On the other hand, Sir God Lu Yi drove his two flywheels. Swoosh! Swoosh! The flywheels flew past the void, and the speed was shockingly fast too. Dang! 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 The repeated clashing noise rang in the void. Both parties gave full play to their divine powers and comprehension towards doctrines respectively. Hongjun golden sword and the black and white flywheel that represented life and death clashed again and again. Just the overflowing power that spread was enough to rip a huge black hole in the void. Occasionally, the impact spread to the border of the battlefield, and a large number of experts were terrified. The battle was a vigorous fight between almighties. It wasn't a fight that any universe gods or real gods at the scene could get involved in. Even if one were a chaotic real god, they reckoned the chaotic real god might be exterminated by the power of the exchange blows. Hum, hum, hum. The void was torn apart again and again, but it recovered again and again. The battle between the two was becoming white-hot. Chapter 17:23, leaving leisurely. Chapter 17:23, leaving leisurely. For you to be able to fight with my life and death flywheels like this, your golden swords are really peculiar. No wonder Sir God Qianlan suffered great losses at your hands. However, although the golden swords are strong and your divine power is not weak, your level of comprehension of the power of Heaven Way is too low. Sir God Lu Yi's eyes were glowing with a shrill light like lightning. All of a sudden, his white and black flywheels combined and formed a completely new flywheel. fusion of life and death kill. Sir God Lu Yin gave a cry. The new black and white flywheel then unleashed an incomparable speed instantly and clashed with the two Hong Jun golden swords. Clang! Clang! Too low, deep sounds could be heard. The two Hong Jun golden swords were actually sent flying unreasonably for hundreds of miles. As for the black and white flywheel, it seemed to be not hindered at all, and it continued to head toward Jian Wushuang. What? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He did not expect the combined power of Sir God's Lu Yin two flywheels to be so powerful. He then released his divine power immediately. Ancient God's secret skill, 8 divine mountains. Bang! 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 Loud sounds could be heard repeatedly. All of a sudden, golden, lofty divine mountains descended. Every golden divine mountain was 100,000 feet tall, and they were emitting brilliant golden light that was dazzling. Moreover, there was a total of 8 divine mountains. The 8 golden divine mountains appeared in front of Jian Wushuang and acted as 8 protective screens. The black and white flywheel headed over with lightning speed, and the frightening power that it contained destroyed the first 7 divine mountains instantly. However, it was stopped by the 8th divine mountain, the final divine mountain. What strong power! 7 of the 8 divine mountains that I have unleashed with my full power were actually destroyed instantly. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with shock. The 8 divine mountains was the only defense-type secret skill among the ancient god's secret skills, and it was extremely powerful. When it was unleashed with Jian Wushuang's current divine power, it could stop the attacks of normal Sir Gods easily. However, for the flywheel of Sir God Lu Yin, although the 8 divine mountains had stopped it, the 8 divine mountains had reached their limits as well. Ha ha! As expected of Sir God Lu Yin, your abilities are indeed impressive. Today, I, Jian Wushuang, have learned a great lesson from you. I shall take my leave now. A hearty and loud laugh echoed across the universe. The 2 Hong Jun golden swords had already returned to Jian Wushuang and were put into Jian Wushuang's Qian Kuan ring. As for Jian Wushuang, he turned his body straight away and was about to leave. You wish to run? Sir God Lu Yin's face turned cold. Don't think of escaping without leaving the Taiqing ancient panaceas behind. Haha, what a joke. If I want to escape, do you think that you can stop me? Jian Wushuang laughed disdainfully. By activating the secret skill Flowing Light Phantom, thousands upon thousands of shadows appeared. At the same time, he also unleashed the secret skill of Dragon Blood. The moment he unleashed the secret skill of Dragon Blood, his speed rose greatly. In addition, Jian Wushuang had comprehended the space-time doctrine, and he had always been proficient in speed to begin with. Hence, he had already escaped very far away in an instant. Sir God Lu Yin wanted to give chase. However, he was unable to catch up to him at all. In the void, Sir God Lu Yin's figure had already stopped moving. As he looked in the direction that Jian Wushuang disappeared to, his body trembled, and he was filled with dissatisfaction. Jian Wushuang, I shall remember what happened today. Sir God Lu Yin clenched both his fists tightly, and his eyes were filled with flames of fury. In the surrounding void, when the experts from the 16 holy kingdoms witnessed such a scene, all of them had extremely puzzled expressions. In their eyes, Sir God Lu Yin was an invincible existence. However, on that very day, Sir God Lu Yin was made a fool of by someone else, and he had suffered a great loss. Moreover, the person who had caused that was merely a real god. His name was Jian Wushuang, the number 1 on the real god ranking list. After leaving the Yuming Mountain, Jian Wushuang slowed down, and he moved forward in the void, slowly. Sir God Lu Yin, no wonder he has such a big reputation in the eternal chaotic world. His abilities are really not fake, Jian Wushuang gasped in admiration. In actual fact, when comparing abilities for real, Sir God Lu Yin was indeed slightly stronger than him, and Jian Wushuang agreed with this point. If they were to go all out, Jian Wushuang would only have a slight chance at victory by unleashing all his trump cards. However, Sir God Lu Yin was too careless, and he had allowed Jian Wushuang to obtain the Taiqing ancient panaceas first, obtaining the absolute opportunity as a result. Originally, he had thought that everything was under his control. Without the need to even show himself, someone would naturally present the Taiqing ancient panaceas to him obediently. However, he totally did not expect me to participate in this fight as well. Jian Wushuang laughed. The holy kingdom of real Wushu was Sir God Lu Yin's territory, and he knew everything inside out. He knew that apart from him, no other almighty was present in the whole holy kingdom of real Wushu. Other than that, he naturally did not need to worry about the group of real gods. Even if the Taiqing ancient panaceas were to fall into the hands of Jian Wushuang, he was also not worried in the slightest. It was only after he knew of Jian Wushuang's abilities and identity that he started to feel anxious. However, by then, it was already too late. The Taiqing ancient panaceas had already fallen into the hands of Jian Wushuang. Although he was slightly stronger than Jian Wushuang, he was still unable to kill Jian Wushuang. As such, there was nothing he could do to Jian Wushuang. However, if it were another almighty who came, Sir God Lu Yin would definitely be extremely vigilant, and he would have come personally to get the Taiqing ancient panaceas a long time ago. Luck, Jian Wushuang murmured. For him to obtain the Taiqing ancient panaceas this time around, it was indeed partially down to luck. As for him provoking Sir God Lu Yin as a result of that, Jian Wushuang was not concerned in the slightest bit. Sir God Lu Yin was just a Sir God, and at present he was unable to do anything against Jian Wushuang. As for the future, he would be completely unable to do anything against Jian Wushuang. As Jian Wushuang traveled, he left the boundaries of the holy kingdom of real Wushu in no time. In a black void, with a swing of Jian Wushuang's hands, He Xiu, who was stored in the Blood Mountain Sword, was released. "I am He Xiu. Greetings to Lord." He Xiu greeted Jian Wushuang respectfully. His eyes were filled with a great amount of admiration and excitement. Previously, Jian Wushuang had put him inside the Blood Mountain Sword so that it would be more convenient for him to bring him out of the holy kingdom of real Wushu. Inside the Blood Mountain Sword, he was not restrained at all, and he could see everything that occurred outside clearly. He had witnessed Jian Wushuang and the legendary Sir God Lu Yin fighting clearly. Moreover, they were fighting head-on. However, in the end, Sir God Lu Yin was unable to do anything to Jian Wushuang. It was obvious that although Jian Wushuang was only a real god, his fighting capabilities were of the level of an almighty. Since an almighty was standing in front of him, so He Xiu was naturally respectful. "I have already fulfilled your request to bring you out of the holy kingdom of real Wushu. Hence, neither of us owe each other anything now," Jian Wushuang said. After speaking, Jian Wushuang turned to leave. "Wait," He Xiu spoke hurriedly. Chapter 1724, Registered Disciple. Chapter 1724, Registered Disciple. "What's the matter?" Jian Wushuang glanced at He Xiu. He Xiu took a deep breath, and he then immediately knelt before Jian Wushuang and said, "I earnestly request for Mr. to take me on as your disciple. I will definitely serve you for the rest of my life." "Disciple?" Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. He had only taken in one disciple officially in his life. It was Lin Lan back in ancient worlds, who had really formally been apprenticed to him. As for Chun, who that he had met in Qing Tian Mystery Land during his third inverse cultivation test, although he gave pointers to him, strictly speaking, Chun, who wasn't his disciple, and he had yet to reach the criteria to be his disciple. However, He Xiu before him. Frankly speaking, Jian Wushuang quite liked He Xiu. He liked him mainly because of his disposition. He was determined. He had a mad heart that was daring to give his all and bet his all, regardless of if it was when he hid in Ming Mountains and the experts from the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms couldn't find him for over 20 years, or when he had made his last best with the Taiqing ancient Panaceas when he had no way to go. Jian Wushuang was in awe of what he did. However, Jian Wushuang didn't intend to take on any disciples. He Xiu, I heard that you're good with swords. Jian Wushuang looked at He Xiu. Yes, He Xiu nodded heavily. Show me. Jian Wushuang looked calm. He flipped his hand, and there was a long sword in his hand. Show me all you've got. He Xiu stood up and looked at Jian Wushuang in front of him. His face grew solemn. He knew that Jian Wushuang had given him a chance. The chance was hard to come by, and there was only one. He had to grasp it. He took a deep breath. Then there was a crimson sword in He Xiu's hands too. The crimson sword looked rather vicious. Suddenly, He Xiu moved. There was a sudden crimson light, and it was piercingly cold, yet enchanting. The moment it appeared, it substituted the lights in the universe. He Xiu concentrated his understanding of swordsmanship over the years and all his power into the stroke. That stroke was already a real god level of unique skill. Looking at the crimson light, Jian Wushuang was surprised. He had originally thought He Xiu was only an ordinary family disciple of a holy kingdom. Although he was a genius, Jian Wushuang couldn't be bothered with a genius in a holy kingdom. When he saw He Xiu's actions, Jian Wushuang realized that he was wrong. Genius was normally found where it was least expected. He Xiu was absolutely a genius. He should have turned into universe god in the third heaven not long ago, but he already created real god-level unique skill. Most importantly, he has already comprehended a slight bit of power of heaven way. Jian Wushuang could clearly feel that there was a slight bit of extermination power in He Xiu's stroke. Although his comprehension level was low and he had merely comprehended a slight bit, it was impressive for a universe god. 100 universe gods on universe god ranking list. He Xiu will at least be in the top 50, Jian Wushuang complimented as he moved. A simple yet calm stroke, as though it didn't contain any power, but it happened to hit He Xiu's crimson sword. He Xiu's sword momentum instantly dissolved, and he staggered. He couldn't help but took a few steps back. How did it happen? He Xiu looked surprised. He obviously had yet to respond. He saw Jian Wushuang's stroke didn't contain much power, nor contain much mystery. He didn't even use any power of heaven way, but he broke his sword momentum so easily. Sword principle. It's his understanding of sword principle. Mister's understanding of sword principle is far beyond my imagination. He Xiu clenched his hand tightly, and there was a great commotion in his heart. Jian Wushuang's eyes were twinkling with curiosity too, no matter if it is his swordsmanship comprehension of power of heaven or his talent. They are all extremely good. Plus, his disposition is great. He Xiu, Jian Wushuang looked at him. Mister, He Xiu replied politely, you are quite powerful. In swordsmanship, you're highly talented too. You are really a genius that is hard to come by. If it were to be any other swordsman, I think they would be dying to take you on as their disciple, but I'm different. Jian Wushuang said coldly, my focus is to chase more power. I hardly have the time to teach a disciple. If you really want to be under me, I can only take you in as a registered disciple and give you simple guidance. As for if I would take you on as a lineal disciple, it depends on your capability and performance. Are you willing? Of course I am. He Xiu looked thrilled. He immediately knelt down before Jian Wushuang and kowtowed politely. Disciple, He Xiu greets master. Get up then. Jian Wushuang waved, and He Xiu felt a bolt of energy that guided him to stand up on his feet instantly. As you are my disciple, you should know my name. I am Jian Wushuang, from lineage of Star. Also, I am an inverse cultivator, Jian Wushuang said. Inverse cultivator? He Xiu was surprised. He had heard about inverse cultivators, but he didn't know much. I'll bring you back to lineage of Star first. As for other matters, you'll slowly find out, Jian Wushuang said. He Xiu nodded, but he suddenly paused. Oh, yeah, master. One more thing, it's about this. He Xiu flipped his wrist, and there was a weird-looking jade sword in his hand. The jade sword was made of an unknown jade. Even Jian Wushuang couldn't determine it. The jade sword obviously didn't look like it was for killing, but it should be something like a token. What is this? Jian Wushuang was confused. The jade sword is like the Taiqing ancient Panacea. My father found them in Sir God Danhong's cave dwelling. My father told me that the jade sword was related to a great opportunity, and he told me to take good care of it. As for what the opportunity is, he had no idea either. He Xiu replied honestly. Opportunity? Jian Wushuang was interested. Then he recalled the information that Ming Pub provided. It had said that not only did his family receive the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas from Sir God Danhong's cave dwelling, they had also got an opportunity, but no one knew what opportunity it was. The people who chased after He Xiu were attracted the Taiqing ancient panaceas, and they forgot about the opportunity. It seemed like the opportunity would be the jade sword. But looking at the jade sword itself, Jian Wushuang had no idea what it represented. Wait till Hall Master Yuan and the others see the jade sword. They might know the origin of the jade sword. Jian Wushuang thought. He Xiu, let's go. Follow me back to the lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang said. He Xiu naturally followed Jian Wushuang obediently. The two of them sat in the spaceship as it traveled to lineage of Star directly.